Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. I see you all in the comments already. Good afternoon, 1804 Banks, the Lone Silencer, Terry Mermain, who's always in here, Hard X Core, Hassan, shout out to you. You're always in here, 92 Charlie. And I saw a lot of you on the Executive Perspective. You're in the comments there. I've seen you on other shows too. So thank you for always supporting the whole network. That it means a lot to all of us. So thanks for being here. If you can, if you are watching us on YouTube right now, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Hit the notification button as well. If you're watching on Rumble, please hit the Rumble button, hit the like button. And if you're watching us right now, streaming all over the world on X, please hit that like button and share this out to all your friends, especially those in that low information bubble, because God knows this. Like way too many people in there right now. So a lot's been happening. Again, like the last show, there was a lot with that. But I thought that credit to retired Deputy Chief Winston Faison to even come on and take all the questions for everyone. Look, whether you like someone, you don't like someone, if they're willing to come on and they want to clear the air, I'm going to give you the floor. So I don't really take a position other than I do believe that Winston is the NYPD has a way of going about things, and they don't do things on the up and up. They definitely don't do things. They don't do things because they want to do it off of, we'll say, like the right way of doing it. So they targeted him in the way they handled that thing. Okay, 20 charges, whatever that was ridiculous. And then you come to find out that the same advocate that's prosecuting that case was prosecuting the case with Detective Smith also. So, and did the same things. These, it's like saying you committed, they're going to say assault 2, right? You punch someone in the face, it's assault 2, they're bleeding. And then I'm going to add 5 other ways of saying that. Harassment and all this other stuff. And you're charging them being 6 when really it's just one thing. Why are we doing 6 other charges? So that was one of the things I can't stand as I saw. But again, great job, Winston, even coming on. And I know plenty of people were watching, and we're still talking about all of that. But that's how it is on the Sal Greco Show. So now I'm going to get into another topic. So as we know, you have a new mayor-elect, right? You're going to have a new mayor. So the theme of the show is going to be, what's the police department going to look like under a Mayor Mamdani now? But we're going to get into that. And also, I guess he trying to speak to the president. So let me play this video for you, because this is Zohran Mamdani talking about exactly what I've told you guys about, the 3-car Mamdani. Now he wants to talk to the president. So let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I'll say that I'm here to work for the benefit of everyone that calls the city home, and that wherever there is a possibility for working together towards that end, I'm ready. And if it's to the expense of those New Yorkers, I will fight it.
Speaking of phone conversations, we understand you eventually received one from Mayor Adams.
Yes, I did have a conversation with Mayor Adams, and I appreciated the conversation that we had.
He's having a conversation with Mayor Adams. I know he definitely... 100% in that interview, he mentioned that he wants to talk to President Trump. I told you from the beginning that no matter who you elected that was part of the Democrat Party, and 2 of them had an independent on them, you were getting the same agenda and it's the same candidate, essentially, just different ways of looking at it. One guy wants to use composting. One guy says, all right, just leave sanitation alone. One guy wants the NYPD, 5,000 people there. Another one says, we're going to keep it the same. The one candidate that wanted to make a difference, he wanted to hire 10,000 cops and change the way to do CCRB. But you guys voted this way. But that just shows you, once again, you're starting to hear from him that he wants to talk to Trump and he's talking to Eric Adams because this is WWE. You go to the back, all the wrestlers are like best friends. They get in a ring and it's all choreographed what they're going to do. You're all looking like seals, who's clapping, who's booing, who wants to throw their drink at the wrestlers. Then they go to the back, they're shaking hands going, wow, we really got the crowd tonight. You guys got, you got suckered into a 3-card Mamdani, but we try to warn you. Now you got to deal with the repercussions of all this nonsense. But now, speaking of the president, look, you got this whole thing. Let's put this up on the screen. An email. There's an email chain here. This is Larry Summers. And this is in regards to this Jeffrey Epstein. He's talking to Jeffrey Epstein here. And you could tell what he says is, I've told you, I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. And they're talking about President Trump. This is a self-inflicted wound because, like I told you months ago, I don't believe there's anything to this, with these emails and President Trump doing something illegal or what. I think there's other people that may have done that. But like right here, Republican Rep Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace refused to remove their names from a congressional effort aimed at forcing the government to release documents related to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, despite a reported campaign mounted by President Trump. And I think that this has to do with other people. And I think it's other people behind, like there's, the billionaire class, the donors that keep running to the White House. That's who's probably in these files. And I thought even at that time, President Trump himself, all this time, didn't do anything with this guy. He might have known him. It's the same thing. Like the other day with Winston Faison. Oh, he's part of the Crumbs crew. No, he's not. He just has to deal with these people in a work-related environment. Or you may see them at an event. I mean, I'm sure everyone here knows that, you're going to work with people you may or may not really like. Or, okay, I know them. But you're not going to be saying, okay, I want this guy coming over my house to have dinner. We're going to go party together. And Epstein was one of these guys as time went on. Trump pulled away from realizing what was really going on. I don't think there's anything there with him. But I think there's things there with people that have probably donated money and are in and around the Trump camp, whether it's some billionaire. It's that's what this is really all about. But it's a self-inflicted wound because he made a big deal about it. And now it's coming back around like a boomerang. Had he just released it, there was just a different way of handling this, and then they're making this into more than what it should be. Again, I just think that you can't tell your base, Epstein. We're gonna allow this. We're gonna call this out. We're gonna do it, and then you don't do anything. And you got Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. So these emails you're gonna be hearing a lot about it. But again, in regards to personally with Trump, there's nothing there. There's going to be things probably about other people. And the other people are the ones that are trying to block this by begging him not to release it, and that's what's really going on. Shout out to Joel Ramirez, good buddy. $49.99 to the Sal Greco Show. That's going to be a lot of cafecitos and espressos later. Says, you're not fighting this fight by yourself, Sal. One step at a time. We're almost there. Keep strong. Yeah, the two in my own case, we discussed a little bit about it because that disgraceful mayor you have running around, now he's running to Israel, refuses to do anything. He wants this to go to Mamdani. So we'll end up in court. The only thing is Eric Adams doesn't realize he's going to get dragged into this himself. So, he wants to play big shot, but he'll have to answer for it. There he is. Folks, he's going to Israel in your dime in New York City, by the way. You're paying for this trip. What's the purpose of this? Self-impressed. Self-impressed Eric wants to probably get a job. That's what I think. So now there's another issue, which is this H-1B visa thing. This is another thing. Like, I don't know. Trump. So Trump getting elected, right? No H-1B visas. We were gonna investigate all this stuff. You're only gonna let the best people in. We're not gonna have this. We're not gonna outsource our jobs. You want to keep it where it's America first. He's talking about 600,000 Chinese students, coming to school here. He's also mentioning the 50-year mortgage thing, which is, look, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. He does not. I don't know. It just doesn't sound like the same Trump that we all know and we voted for. So I don't know what's going on there with that. I mean, here's the video with this H-1B program. Check this out.
700,000 H-1B visa holders in America. Now, who is coming to this country to take these high-skilled jobs? As I mentioned, STEM fields dominate the occupations. And most of the workers come from India. In fact, 70% of H-1B visa holders come from India. Another 10 to 15% come from China. 80% of H-1B visa approvals are for entry-level or junior-level jobs. That's a little hard to stomach when we hear that we're not talented enough or that we're not skilled enough for these jobs, when you consider that most of these jobs are actually at entry or junior-level jobs. And it's definitely to the benefit of corporations, tech companies that can hire foreign workers, trust me on this, cheaper than American workers. This is laid out, by the way, by billionaire tech entrepreneur Palmer Luckey.
There's so much H-1B abuse. You would not believe what I saw when I was in Silicon Valley. It is insane. It's obviously a program to try and replace U.S. workers with basically slave labor that can't ever escape. The H-1B abuse is crazy.
Joe Ramirez says this best here. He goes, we're not educated enough for those jobs as per the president. We don't have the talent that was a great interview by Fox News. How insulting. Make America great again, right? What a joke. There's a lot of people that are upset over this, and also Marlon saying he was talking about the universities here. So Marlon said Americans can't afford universities anymore, and men aren't attending in the numbers they once did. And he continues saying, instead of letting them fail and become trade schools for electricians and mechanical engineers, Trump essentially bailed them out. That's what's going on here. It's more like he's the president of these tech companies, Bitcoin, all that other stuff going on. Special Hagen says the H-1B visa thing has been going on for a long time. In fact, the tech companies have been at the forefront. They were even doing this at city agencies when I worked there. It was wild. That's I'm saying. And again, he campaigned on, America first. We won't allow this. And I think, and the messaging's bad too. The H-1B visa thing. So you're saying, because now they're going to get all these, people from India and stuff. Now, people abuse this program. Now, if he said he's going to look into the abuse of this and stop the abuse, that's different than saying what he was saying. The 600,000 students from China, same thing. 50-year mortgage. He's trying to tell you this is a good idea when it clearly, if you buy a home, and it's $500,000. By the time you're done paying that mortgage, it's going to cost you over $1 million more. It's a $1.5 million mortgage, basically, or more. How is that benefiting you? And he's trying to explain this, and I'm like, oh God, he just stepped in a landmine, and there's no I don't know. Here's John McCarty. The problem isn't that there isn't enough talent in USA. The problem is there's no integrity in our elected officials on both sides. America first means putting Americans' interests first. That is 100% correct, John. And we see that right now. We're seeing a lot of interest towards, these guys with the billionaire businesses. We saw it in New York City where they iced out the best candidate to put someone who was all about the city of yes, and You are now noticing that there's article. They wrote something yesterday about the city of Yes and the fact that now all those proposals, people were voting at the ballot box to give the mayor more of a say on how building development goes. Guess who takes over for that now? Mamdani, who wants the city of Yes. You were always getting the same candidate, guys. It's like, I don't know what. Special Agent says Adams and the rich want the poor to abandon hopes of college by going into the trades. Meanwhile, they're bringing in folks via the H-1B visas and encouraging them to go and take the better jobs. That's right. It's really sad because really people they did not vote for that. And had they known, I'm sure they would have wrote in a candidate or something, Here it is one. Staten Island, the lawsuit challenging the controversial City of Yes zoning plan has been dismissed by a Staten Island judge who claimed the city had done its due diligence during the environmental review process. Well, there you go. Courts are cooked. The City of Yes was going to come. Everybody's in on it. So it's very sad. So now, when I get this news, all this stuff about Trump and Adams and New York City and what's going on, any breaking news, I get it off Free Spoke. Free Spoke is always something that pops up on my screen right away. So let's hear from Free Spoke. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on the search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. Yeah, and Greco 35 for the 35% off your subscription at Free Spoke, which, again, all these things, some of these things I don't even know about. It pops up on the screen via Free Spoke before anyone else. And like I said, you could go on there and you could actually, if you lean one way, whether it's liberal or conservative, you could change the settings or keep it in the middle. So and you'll get all your news that way. And it's a much easier way to get it that way than get it going on a major search engine that likes to skew things one way or the other. HardX Course says Trump is pro-immigration to take our jobs. LOL. Wake me up from this nightmare. Trump equals Bratton's second term. That's a good way of putting it. We all thought Bratton coming back was going to be a good thing, and then it ends up that over time we're like, what happened to Bill Bratton? And then, we know what happened to Bill Bratton. There was a guy by the name of Jack Maple who really came up with everything. But Bill Bratton has always taken the credit for Jack Maple's brainstorm. It was the brainchild of Jack Maple that came up with everything that Bill Bratton took credit for. So, rest in peace, Jack Maple. You're the real hero of the we'll say resurgence of New York City and the New York City Police Department. But he'll never get the full credit that he deserves. Also, before I have Eric on, if you can, I need you to go to myfreedomcard.com/Sal Greco Show. And what this is it's a business that supports law enforcement, pro-law enforcement people. Definitely good because it's a patriotic business that helps out law enforcement. And, if you go to, wherever you go, you go to a regular place that you shop at and you get these products, you buy whatever it is for your home, toothpaste, stuff like anything like this, right? You're going to end up, you pay more, but the money that they make off of that, which always goes to these bigger corporations, they don't go. You're not paying into a business that gives money back or helps, like law enforcement. Because I tell you, this company, they help out a lot of firefighters and police departments, and they're very pro law enforcement. And they've done a lot of things. They've donated to law enforcement, either causes or actual, let's say, law enforcement agencies. So if you are pro law enforcement and you are, for a business that actually supports you and don't say, yeah, come here, and then they basically get that guy out of here, we don't want him here, like Starbucks has done, all these other people, I would go there. So if you can, myfreedomcart.com/Sal Greco Show. Check them out. You might see some stuff you want. And hey, sometimes it's better to just have things delivered to your home than you have to drive with your car and go pick up all this stuff and carry it around in your car. So just check it out, and you'll thank me for it later. So now, without any further ado, I'm going to have my guest on, but you know him because he's the co-host on The Finest Unfiltered, and recently celebrated Veterans Day. He's our veteran, we'll call him, and that's retired Lieutenant Eric Dym.
Yeah, brother. What's going on? Sal, always a pleasure, man. Good show today. Your show the other day with Faison, retired chief, was outstanding. We all assumed he was a DEI hire, and turns out with shock and awe, he had an impressive resume. Shout out to our friends and listeners, and especially to Joel Ramirez, who I know well. We were both special operations lieutenants together. Was a great law enforcement officer. Enjoy your retirement, brother. Thanks for the coffee and donuts.
Yeah, and yeah, that was a good. And also, you had Veterans Day. You basically had a Veterans Weekend because you were gone for a few days. You weren't here on Friday. We missed you on Friday. We had a big round table that day, and I always know every year you do that. So I don't know if you want to say a little bit about that because you were away for a couple of days. You got together with everybody. Nobody saw you, and we were like, "Oh, you want to hear from Eric?" I know people want to hear from you. So
every year I get together as a reunion. I went to boot camp in the Marines in January 2000, and here we are, almost 26 years later. I get together with a couple of Marines every year, sometimes 10, 15, 5, as many as can make it. It's great. And we get together, and just the camaraderie and the morale is outstanding, and celebrate the Marine Corps birthday, which is November 10th. And of course, the day after, which is Veterans Day. So this year we just went to an all-inclusive in Dominican Republic, relaxed, bunch of Marines telling old stories. Some guys are in law enforcement, some of the guys are in different facets in life, but everybody turned out doing well, and the camaraderie still stays strong, brother. So sepify to the Marine Corps, and thank you to all the services out there. And thank you also to our law enforcement agencies with their boots on the ground every day. In my opinion, they're veterans too.
Shout out to everybody. And it was, it was good because, I know you do this every year, but there's a few things that I think people needed to hear because you weren't on Friday's show. And obviously that was a post-election show, and it's kind of what's spinning into what we're going to talk about in a little bit. But what did you think of A, the election, B, Mamdani getting elected, and how everything transpired, especially the way they treated Curtis Lee, how that entire fiasco went down?
So I think that the Finest Unfiltered, again, has been at the forefront for months before that. And especially, got to say, especially to John, who was spot on, highlighting Zohran Mamdani, who was kind of a sleeper. And I remember John saying initially how well his campaign was going. And even before we had him on the show, and we just saw the highlights of it. And unfortunately, we eventually proved together on this show that Zohran Mamdani, Eric Adams, former Mayor Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, you were getting all the same. Nothing has changed. He's not the socialist, this myth that they've built out to be. He's the same thing that you've had before. So the legacy of the failure of Democrats in New York City just continues. Now, when it comes to Curtis Lee, the entire network, we were behind him, and I still am. I'm proud of him, and thank God for what he did. He's a real life New Yorker. He's an outsider when it comes to politicians, but he's an inside New Yorker. And so for him, I say congratulations to him because he won. He was knocked down numerous times. He saw the betrayal from his friends in this election, and he continued to fight. At 71 years old, he showed an extreme amount of stamina. He was out there all day. So for him, I say congratulations, and I hope that he's enjoying a moment now to sit back and relax because he deserves it. He ran a hell of a campaign. Good job to his campaign. And, we support him, and we still do. So, Curtis Sliwa, shout out to you, my brother. Thank you.
You see this, though, Eric, all these gold spots, this is all the districts that Cuomo won. And those districts are Republican. So Republican districts voted for a Democrat that tried to not only destroy their lives as a governor, he is the godfather of the Zohran Mamdani movement, because when he was governor, not only did he implement all the policies that now New York City, New York State have to deal with, all the cashless bail, raise the age, everything, that was him. The Working Family Party, which is the party that Zohran Mamdani came to power through, back in 2014 or so, or 2012, one of those years when he was running for governor, he changed the laws to go against these smaller parties because he wanted to crush any opposition. See, back then, Cuomo ran as a Democrat, and on a second ticket, on a second line, he ran on the Working Families Party. He crushed the Reform Party. He crushed the Libertarian Party. He crushed the Green Party. In New York State, it was a state that everybody liked to run in because you could run on all these other party lines. You don't necessarily need the Republican line. Michael Bloomberg used this very well when he ran for mayor, right? He ran as a Republican because obviously Michael Bloomberg was the incumbent mayor. He was no Republican. He was an independent that had the Republican line because he's the incumbent. But he also ran on an independent line. This helped him out tremendously, okay, down when it came down to it on his third term. Here we are talking about Mamdani, yet Cuomo godfathered all these laws, and because of his laws, he knocked out all the parties except the Working Family Party, which gave birth to Zohran Mamdani. Isn't that incredible, Eric? And all the Republicans voted for this blindly. This is why. Our deity said so. Our deity said so in D.C. We must vote for him. How do you like those 50,000, what was that 600,000 Chinese students heading your way? Keep listening to the guy. Don't ever question him, because you can't hold your leaders accountable, Eric. You just got a blind loyalty, put a blindfold on and jump all in no matter what the guy says.
Listen, I'm not excited that Zohran Mamdani won. However, I can tell you this. I don't fear Zohran Mamdani, and neither does anyone on this network in the manner that they've pushed out this rhetoric in New York City any more than I do Eric Adams or former Mayor Bill de Blasio or Andrew Cuomo, because to me, they're all the same. He's not the socialist that they've painted him out to be. What they've done is create this image of fear. And for the most part, those people, as you always say, low information, which I agree, because, good, hardworking people do not have the time to pay attention, or maybe just some don't have the passion in politics, or they really don't understand how it actually takes a toll on their life. And I said this the other day. I said one thing Sal is right about is that local politics is far more important at what happens on the national level, especially if you are a working person, on how it bears on your life, and especially in New York City. And I saw the prevalence traveling the country in an RV. I saw the name recognition make its way throughout the entire country. Everyone, even people in Alaska, were paying attention to this election of New York City of Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani. And what they didn't know is that there's a Republican, and his name is Curtis Sliwa, because they gave the illusion that that was your only two options. And your option was to pick someone that was a complete disaster as the savior and the hero to get rid of the anti-hero. So I just think it's fascinating, but I don't think Zohran Mamdani is any different than Eric Adams. The only difference is he's telling you who he is. They're the same person. Eric Adams is just, he's a linguistic when it comes to his tongue. We have no idea what he's saying. We don't know what he means. His face says something completely different. Everything's gaslight and everything's a lie. But at least Zohran Mamdani is telling you, he's transparent, that he wants to put the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order. Do I believe those policies are dangerous for the public? Yes. But who do I ultimately blame? Not the mayor. They're going to play their politics. I blame the NYPD leadership. I blame the leadership of different New York City agencies that allow the mayor to change the policies. That's who I blame.
Mm-hmm. Hey, K1 Calendar says the only difference is that Eric Adams had to have with a progressive policeman who has some DSA values, and so is the DSA. He's a reformer socialist. I don't even know if he's I really feel like this guy is just another establishment Democrat. Like all along, I know the game, and I'm like, he's gonna do exactly what Bill de Blasio was doing. And he's going to have cops that he likes because that's how this works. It's one thing to govern, one thing to say rhetoric campaign, and another thing to govern. You learn that with Trump right now. So it's one thing rhetoric, next thing how to govern. Oh, look at that, our friend G. She's in the chat. Shout out to you. We by the way, if you ever do X Spaces, she's awesome. You want her in there because she brings all kinds of fury and fire into a conversation. She says local politics affects your day to day, and I think that means.
I love Miss G.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Shout out to you, real Brooklyn girl. You want to hear one? That's Mrs. G.
Yeah, now I know what she meant. Local politics affects your day to day and quality of life. The federal government has nothing to do with it. She's 100% spot on. And she is a Brooklyn girl. She's from Brooklyn, living there a long time. She could tell you. And she voted for Curtis Sliwa, by the way. She voted for Trump, but she voted for Curtis Sliwa. So that tells you, you can't be brainwashed, really. And it would have been the same if Curtis was in there. I would hold his feet to the fire, too. Friend or not friend, you got to do what's right. But it's like this guy is your president, and let's not ask any questions. I've never seen anything like this. I really haven't, Eric. I'm like stunned, and the stuff that I'm seeing, And look,
I'm stunned too. I just want to say, someone made a comment earlier as a comparison, an analogy of Trump to Bratton 2.0, and I thought that was a great analogy. For me, I feel like this is like a sequel, right? You ever watch a great movie and like you wait for the sequel comes out, and it's like the sequel just goes down, and you're like, man, thank God we got the first one. And it actually ruins and taints the picture of the first movie you saw. That's what I feel like it is with Trump right now. And, even his outlook and his take now on this potential 50-year mortgage is scary. It is scary, brother.
It is, and Hard X Core, who came up with that comment, actually said here, Mamdani admin is all de Blasio people recycled. If you survive de Blasio, you will be just fine under Mamdani. That is exactly what I've been trying to tell people, is that you will survive Mamdani. You know why? New York City has always survived each mayor prior to this. So it's not going to change. But I thought him hiring his first hiree as a deputy mayor is a retread from Bill de Blasio's administration. And his other deputy mayor is Eric Adams, deputy mayor. So it's like, what, you guys got exactly what we kept telling you. Yet we were met with such furor online. People, what was it they called? Eric, you weren't even here. They called John a Marxist. John McCarty is a Marxist, apparently, to some.
It's pretty funny to say that. They've now given the illusion that John actually endorsed Zohran Mamdani. It's furthest from the truth. What John was doing, John pretty much has become, and you yourself, I have to say, you're both a very, you dived into it. It's your passion, almost like political analyst, with free speech. And he just gave his take on it. And his take was pretty much on the mark that Zohran Mamdani was running a hell of a campaign and became the face of the Democratic Party. I could say not only to become the face of the Democratic Party in New York City, but the entire state, because I travel the entire state, and you can see Zohran Mamdani has got an extreme amount of name recognition. So, with that being said, that's why, my concern is the NYPD and, of course, with CCRB. And I think CCRB is now going over the cliff. It used to be, well, at least it was supposed to be, the foundation of it, especially in 1993 when it became its own independent agency, was supposed to be an investigative agency. But to me, it's becoming a political agency. That's the problem with CCRB, and that's why we have to keep our eyes on it.
See, 92 Charlie says this best. He says, no qualified immunity, giving CCRB more power and the mayor having the last say, not the PC on NYPD issues. That's it. And that's pretty much a segue into this is like this is your wheelhouse right here, right? And I need to know how you feel. I feel this is a setup coming. So it says this came on the other day in the Daily News. It said the CCRB chair resigns, blaming NYPD union campaign of lies against him. So the interim chair of the CCRB board, or the CCRB, is resigning and says he is stepping down because a police union head smeared him as anti-cop and lied about his record. That person's name, Dr. Muhammad Khalid. He was on the CCRB board for 10 years during the Bloomberg administration, and now he resigns. We don't know who's going to take this position up, but this guy he's not a pro cop. I mean, this is the guy that resided over all those cases with you and numerous others that really, I'm going to bring up a case that was in front of him right after this. Has nothing to do with CCRB, yet they had this too. So what do you have to say about that? Because you know a lot more about CCRB than anyone else. This guy resigns, and who's going to take over? What's next?
So here's the concern with CCRB. It's an investigative agency that has turned into a political agency. And the bias, an extreme amount of bias and disdain compromised, and amongst those that are comprised of who works there and does these investigations. The problem is that, and even under Kelly, CCRB was given their authority to prosecute their own cases, right? So they actually have an attorney that will prosecute their own case. But now, not only will they prosecute their own cases, but they'll have final discipline. So it almost doesn't make sense, right? So they're going to do the investigation. They're going to prosecute the case, and the same case that they're prosecuting, they're now going to make the final say and determination. So if they're bringing evidence, what they believe is evidence, and they're prosecuting the case, so of course they're going to have final discipline. We're going to see that police officer will be terminated, because that discipline matrix is very easy to terminate police officers using aggravating factors, and anything could be aggravating factors. The fact that you're a police officer is an aggravating factor. That means that you have experience and you should know better. And the problem is, as a political agency, not necessarily as an investigative agency, when they investigate these cases, the CCRB, and they actually testified at city council that they interpreted evidence in the way that they see it. And so the only way we have to tip the scale right now, and even the police commissioner has testified numerous times, going down to Key Chan Sewell, in very few cases do they deviate, but sometimes they do deviate. And now if they have no authority to deviate from a case, these cases can be interpreted in any way the CCRB wants. Remember, the patrol guide is exactly that. It's a patrol guide, and where the CCRB manipulates NYPD policy to fit their case, if they're reverse engineered, this can only get worse.
And Hard Core brings this up because he said this yesterday too. I saw him and he commented on this show, the preview of it. He said right here, it says people seem to have those rose-colored glasses on for CCRB currently as it is, as if it's on the level and Mamdani's going to make it horrible. Newsflash: CCRB 90% and above conviction rate. Joe Fox, the illustrious Joe Fox, that takes a billion pictures with cops out there everywhere, 60% conviction rate. So my thing to you is, now you're gonna have he's gonna put new people in. I got to find a new head of CCRB. Does this get better, worse, status quo under Mayor Mamdani? Because you got to worry about, there's a lot of future cases coming off of this whole Kaz Dodry, John Shell era CRT team. You know it's coming. You know this stuff is coming. What happens now to all these cops?
Well, let's use a case in point right now, right? We have the Wynn Rosario case. And what case is that? Where two police officers, and this case should never even met fruition at all. Two police officers were challenged and confronted with an armed perpetrator with a pair of scissors in close proximity in a kitchen. And unfortunately, it led to the police officers having to use their firearm. And now that case, they were cleared on charges, numerous cases of oversight, and now they have to face the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And because it could be seen as a potential crime, and it doesn't have to be you convicted of a crime, that extends the statute of limitations on CCRB. So now, obviously, this case will probably go into Zohran Mamdani being elected. If CCRB has the final say, those police officers could get terminated for doing everything right because of the CCRB under Zohran Mamdani that will have full authority. Now, I said there are a few cases and cases that are rare where the police commissioner actually deviates from the final say of the Civilian Complaint Review Board or a trial with an administrative judge at the NYPD. But that would be one of those cases where we need the police commissioner to deviate. And in this case, I don't have too many hopes for it.
The soccer mom, Jessica Tisch, she could have a say here if she rules either for or against this, because obviously she could terminate Rosario. You both cops on the spot, right? So she is vying for this position. You hear it everywhere. It's pathetic that they want to keep this soccer mom around. She has not done anything. Crime is not down. No, when they shoot someone, unless the bullet hits a human being, they don't count it. There's shootings everywhere. The crime numbers are down. I don't care who they have on here. What is a former disgraced chief of department saying? The guy was a major cause of people. The mass exodus in the NYPD is because of that person. Okay, so don't take what they just laugh at when you see him and say, give the money back you're taking with your 3/4 BS injury. But these are the things that you keep hearing. There's a million articles out there. Jessica Tisch, crime fighter, all this nonsense. Yet I believe if she says Rosario's guilty, she keeps her job, because that means she's playing ball. If she kicks the can down the road, that means she's not going to do it, she's leaving. Or she says this would be a testament to her. If she says a big F you and says, I don't find them not guilty, and walks out saying that. What do you think happens there? Because I think this is hanging over her head, that they wanted to put those two cops, say they're guilty, and cost them everything and make like a political hit job on it.
So I spoke about this yesterday. John and I spoke about this. What's the most important thing for the NYPD to succeed right now, even under Zohran Mamdani? And that's morale. And morale is this little ball that we could hold on to, and it's everything else that penetrates it. Salary is not important to police officers. Conditions, right? Harsh conditions, precincts that are kind of decimated. Even the gun range, right? It's a terrible place to go to, right? But if morale is strong and morale is good, then these things cannot penetrate. And even the effects of CCRB and oversight. But because morale is so low, these things do penetrate it. And why is morale low? Because of things like this. This case is already an epic fail. And it's a failure on Jessica Tisch as police commissioner. This should have been dismissed without prejudice. This case should have been already dismissed. The police officers faced enough oversight. And that destroys morale. The fact that they're going to allow this to actually play out and be prosecuted at administrative trial with the NYPD is absolutely ridiculous. And it's an insult to every police officer with their boots on the ground, especially Jessica Tisch, who never had to wear the uniform and face an armed perpetrator in close proximity in a kitchen with a knife or scissor or any sharp wedge weapon. Any sharp wedge weapon could kill you. This is absolutely ridiculous. So this should have been dismissed immediately. So if she does not dismiss this case, which she hasn't done already, she's already done the failure to the cops and to the public. Because if the cops can't help you in a situation where you're faced with an edge weapon, then nobody can.
I agree with you. I don't know why, but again, it's just they're going to use this as a political football, and they're afraid to make a decision, especially her, And so there's two comments here that one's hysterical. Snake Plissken said WABC wants her staying on. She's going to stay on. That is hysterical. Yeah. WABC radio is telling you who to vote for. And, the #1 radio host. Oh, I'm the #1. And that guy, more than likely, Mamdani will be on that show. I'm telling you, you're going to see it. It's coming in the near future. They're just waiting for the day to lay this out on you. But 92 Charlie said this, and his comment is exactly what I'm trying to, I'm asking you, Eric, what exactly has the soccer mom done for the NYPD? I don't get why everyone is supporting her to stay on. What do you say, Eric? Everywhere you look, this is the rhetoric. Yet, what has she done? What has the soccer mom, Jessica Tisch, done for the New York City Police Department? She's such a great crime fighter. Can you explain this to me?
One thing I learned about political authority is that money seems to be the most important thing, because it seems the left loves Jessica Tisch and the right love Jessica Tisch. Yet she's never worn the uniform. And if anything, morale has not gotten any better. And nepotism and cronyism, if anything, might have gotten even worse under Jessica Tisch. I think it's a complete disaster, but people love money. The fact that she's a billionaire heiress and she can actually move chess pieces has created her and put her in a position right in the middle where she's loved by the left and loved by the right. And Maul and I talk about it often, especially the elites. The elites love her. But she hasn't done anything to make the police department better, which ultimately corresponds and collaborates with how the city responds. So she hasn't done anything to make it better. This is a complete insult to every police officer, especially the fact that she should be honored that she's in this position and never had to wear the uniform. These police officers should not be in this position. And I think Chicken Wing said it earlier. There's an off-duty police officer about 10 years ago who's still facing a civilian complaint at this point and could potentially lose his job for a case that happened almost 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago off duty. So keep that in mind to the active police officers out there right now. When you're off duty, God forbid you're in a situation and it's considered you're now on duty taking police action, the Civilian Complaint Review Board will come down on you just as much as you were wearing the uniform at work. So keep that in mind. So police officers have a heavy toll and they bear a lot on their shoulders. And the Civilian Complaint Review Board is full of bias in the state. And again, I'll say it, it's no longer an investigative agency. It's a political agency.
That's going to be the crowning jewel moment, by the way. I was going to bring this up. But before I bring up that what you just talked about, Joe Ramirez says the Tisch family over the past 6 months, the family contributed over $1.3 million to fix the city, a super PAC focused on opposing the mayoral candidacy of Zohran Mamdani. That's how hard this family wants this woman to stay. I can't find the one thing that says here's a defining moment for the soccer mom. Corruption has flourished. She's doing crazy things, terminating people. Because, you know, as John McCarthy said it best, it's like, oh, who's this peasant coming to me? You need to be terminated. You know, you're not bringing my hors d'oeuvres into the room. Like that's what we're getting with this woman. Like, I don't know if people see that. She's a billionaire who expects you when she says jump, say, how high, ma'am? You don't do that, you're gone. Like, that's what she's doing. I don't know if people see this or not, you know? And then here's another one. Jeff Smith says, Mamdani said he still hasn't had discussions with Tisch about staying on. What's taking so long? I think he's waiting for her to resign before Adams is done. The ideologies do differ. But she doesn't have one, Jeff. That's trying to tell you. She's not a cop. She never was. She's for the surveillance state, by the way. She loves surveillance. Loves it. She's all for, you know, all this surveillance stuff. She brings in all this technology. Not even ideology-wise with the two of them. She's got her own agenda, and her agenda lines up with other people, and it's just this guy's agenda, whatever it may be. Probably the people behind him are not the same people behind her. Like, they don't see it like this. So she's not, and also she brings the morale of the police department down. Nobody wants her there. People are terrified in One Police Plaza. I'm telling you, they hate her. I know she watches this. Jessica, they hate you there, okay? I know this. They hate you. So you're not well liked because you're out of touch. You're out of touch with the people you work with because you operate on a different level because of, you know, your stature in life. You believe you're better than other people because you're worth more than other people. That's not how this works, especially when you're working for a city agency. A city agency. And here's the thing, is Eric brought this up, and this is what this case has got my head going. Okay, this was in the Daily News too the other day. It was by Graham Raymond and Rocco Parascandola. NYPD judge recommends no disciplinary charge against cop in fatal road rage shooting of unarmed man. All right, this happened 9 years ago. Okay, it was an NYPD administrative law judge. This is Rosaria Maldonado. She's the head judge there, I believe. The deputy commissioner of trial. She's the actual deputy commissioner of trial. Concluded that because Officer Wayne Isaacs was off duty when he shot Delron Small on July 4th, 2016 in East New York, the CCRB does not have jurisdiction to pursue the case. It's very important. This is an off-duty incident. This officer shot this individual that unfortunately perished. There was a criminal trial way back. This is 9 years ago. He was acquitted at this trial. He's currently working in a police department. He hasn't done or said he's not a problem child. 9 years later, this decision that's supposed to be taken is the legal precedents underlying the CCRB assertion it could prosecute an off-duty cop was based on the fact that officers in those prior cases explicitly invoked their police powers. Isaacs Maldonado concluded, did not. Okay, so this decision now goes to Jessica Tisch. And what I'm trying to point out to you, Eric, everyone here, is this case has had how many police commissioners prior? You've had this started on the Bratton, went to O'Neill. We're up to Jessica Tisch. How does where are the people? How do you make this? Why was there no decision made on this, Eric? He was cleared. Why is this still ongoing? Off-duty incident by CCRB. How is this even a CCRB complaint?
This is the kind of stuff, honestly, that makes my blood boil. And unfortunately, we don't have all day, but I could talk about this all day. It's issues like this that destroy the morale of the job because we have weak leadership for years. Over and over again, it's just a tailspin of weak leadership in the NYPD with no support for the cops. In a case like this, that's almost a decade, it's absolutely ridiculous because a case should have impact. The purpose of investigating a case is to have an impact on the police department, for the police department to do better and ultimately correspond how the public can do better or the public can be served better. So in a case that's almost a decade old, whether we agree it should be CCRB or not under their purview, it's almost a decade old and it makes no impact. If the police officer gets terminated or the police officer found not guilty, it doesn't have any impact at all. It's almost a decade ago. Now, even going into that, this police officer in that case was defending his own life. He felt that he was in fear at the time. Now, does that mean he's acting like a police officer or just acting in self-defense? And again, it goes back to the Civilian Complaint Review Board, interpreting evidence in any way that they see fit to find police officers guilty, reverse engineering cases. And they've said it. We've heard Arva Rice, former acting chair of the CCRB, testify to city council. So it doesn't matter if it's 10 police commissioners or 10 more. It doesn't make a difference because they do not deviate from cases, only in rare cases that are just so rare and so few and far between. So if Zohran Mamdani does have his way and the CCRB has final say, it won't even matter anyway. So it just shows a failure upon leadership after leadership. Look, John says it right here. 7 police commissioners who were afraid to make a decision. Exactly that. Bratton, O'Neill, Shea, Sewell, Caban, Donlin. Are these leaders? And now Tisch. Not one of them ever made a decision. That's not leadership. Leadership, you're supposed to own it and take responsibility and make decisions. Colin Powell says it best in his book. He always talks about the 70-40 rule. If you have less than 40% of information, it's too early to make a decision. And if you have more than 70%, you've waited too long. This here, they've waited too long. Failure after failure.
I'm dumbfounded by this because this is 9 years later. This should be national news. This is how inept the police department is run right here. And there's a couple of things more in this that you got to hear because it said the CCRB argued that Monday there's a contradiction in Maldonado's decision because Isaacs had claimed he was acting as a cop to obtain city legal representation in a separate civil lawsuit filed by Small's family. I don't even know how that's relevant to a CCRB case. I don't even know how that's relevant. So, Deputy Commissioner, this is Dakota Gardner, a CCRB spokesman. Deputy Commissioner Maldonado is recommending the case be dismissed because P.O. Isaacs allegedly didn't invoke his authority as a police officer during the encounter, despite having claimed that he acted as a police officer when sued by Mr. Small's family. Commissioner Tisch has said she takes a commitment to discipline seriously, and we are confident she will overrule. Maldonado will let this case proceed to trial. How is this guy so, sure that that's going to happen? Why is it like, is the fix in? He knows that she's going to.
Sal, think about this, right? Leadership is so important, right? So important. Could you imagine? And leadership is at every level. Could you imagine the police commissioners? We gave them an army and said, you know what? They're generals. If they were generals of an army of our U.S. military, we'd already be overran. They would give away everything and say, here you go. Here's one of our soldiers. You can execute them. And that's basically what they're doing right now. Hey, you want to execute this one? No problem. And so John and I spoke about this a long time ago. I think 3 years ago when we started the podcast, that the police department has an unwritten rule of how many casualties they'll have. And that's exactly what they do. They just have casualties. Here you go. You want Daniel Pantaleo? Sure, we'll terminate him. You want to terminate this police officer? Sure. And unfortunately, because the unions don't give the police officers support, there's no backing. And we're just keep going through this wheel, and everyone's just hoping it doesn't happen to them. And then unfortunately, people get hit like, oh, well, it happened to me. And we're just a spokes on a wheel, hoping that somehow it won't hit you. But sometimes it does.
But you don't see the problem here that this says the CCRB argued Isaacs invoked his police powers by using his NYPD issued service weapon in the shooting. So Patrick Hendry's defending him, which he should. He says, we are glad that the trial commissioner has struck down yet another attempt by CCRB to bend the law and increase its own power. CCRB's constant overreach into matters beyond its jurisdiction isn't an accident. It is part of a coordinated campaign to take full control of the NYPD. I find this bizarre that this is 9 years later. We're still I see the family of this person. I mean, they're upset, but you got a civil trial. So what more can you want? It's not an action taking on duty. This is the first time I'm hearing like CCRB, unless they're doing this all the time now. Your actions off duty are going to be used against you in a civilian complaint review board. I don't even know how that's allowed. How does that allow, Eric?
I think this is the comment of the day. Shout out to Marlon. Marlon, my brother, Fires Unfiltered. Spot on. I think he just nailed it. Faison basically said that in his case, too, on Tuesday, he thought Internal Affairs Bureau, which I call the Selective Affairs Bureau, operated fairly until it was his turn. Exactly that. Everybody hopes, you know what? And I've worked with guys like that. When I had all my charges, 8 sets of charges, 6 weeks, and all these CCRBs, like, everyone thought it couldn't happen to them, right? And you know what? I thought too. I thought it could, and it happened to me. And same thing with Faison. Everybody thinks, it won't happen to me. And then, unfortunately, it happens to you too. Because we're all just dodging bullets, especially if you're an active police officer. That's all you're doing. You're just dodging bullets, and you're lucky. If you're out there and you're doing your job as a police officer, as a law enforcement officer should, and you're doing intrusive police work, that's what cops should do. You're just dodging bullets. Will CCRB get you or not? Will you fall on their radar? Will you become a target like Eric Dym? Will you become a white political pawn and work in the South Bronx? Or maybe the other way around. But you can. You sure can. And once you become a target, you got a bullseye on you.
You got to hear more of the story because this is more for context. So Small 37 was with his infant son, stepdaughter, and girlfriend when his car was cut off several times by Isaacs. Smaller was unarmed, crossed 2 lanes of traffic to confront Isaacs in his car on Atlantic Avenue, Bradford Street. Almost as soon as he reached Isaacs' window, the officer shot him 3 times, striking him in the chest. A long legal battle followed in several different courts. First, Isaacs was charged and tried by the state attorney general's office as the first case prosecuted by that office under then Governor Andrew Cuomo's executive order giving the AG's office the power to investigate police-involved deaths. Isaacs, who maintained he acted in self-defense, was acquitted of murder and manslaughter at trial in November 2017. The NYPD's Force Investigation Division then cleared him following an investigation, which then Police Commissioner James O'Neill signed off on in 2018. Here's the catch, though, Eric, and this is what you're talking about. In October of 2020, the CCRB brought a new disciplinary case against Isaacs, charges that weren't served by the NYPD for roughly a year. Then Police Commissioner Keith-Sean Sewell said the department would not block the CCRB's efforts to try Isaacs. What do you say about that, Eric? How is that
Oh my God. How could that be? Ki Chan Sewell, the holy grail that everybody loves so much. You know, we hear about how fantastic Ki Chan Sewell was. And John and I said numerous times, right, on the podcast, she may have said some great potential. I saw some great poise and dignity and some real professionalism, but we never got to see her ability. And she never deviated from cases just like her predecessors and just like her successors as police commissioners. None of them actually make decisions where they stand on backbone to support the police department. Allowing the Civilian Complaint Review Board to penetrate a case in that manner is just an insult to every police officer and every law enforcement, especially her with a law enforcement background. That's just a complete insult because the CCRB consistently goes outside the purview because it's not an investigative body. It's a political body. It's a political agency. Until our active police officers realize that the CCRB is a political agency, that's exactly what you're dealing with, and the unions have to realize that, we don't have a fighting chance because the police commissioners give no pushback at all. They do not deviate from the cases. And that's why, in some cases, the argument that is it going to be that much different under Zohran Mamdani? And the answer is not really. It just gives us those few rare cases.
It is a little, there's a little bit more with this. There's more to that, to add to that. The PBA sued to prevent the disciplinary trial, but the lawsuit was dismissed. Meanwhile, Isaac's lawyers refused to provide the CCRB access to the sealed case file in the Attorney General's failed prosecution. In March 2023, a Brooklyn judge granted the CCRB's unsealing motion. Isaac's lawyers appealed. Last March, an appellate panel ruled in favor of Isaac's. In September, the NYPD finally scheduled his disciplinary trial for November 19th. And the case now goes to, with Maldonato's recommendation, the case now goes to Tish mounting another test of the often fraught interplay between NYPD and CCRB disciplinary matters. Isaacs remains on full duty, assigned to the Office of the Chief of Special Operations, where he's been since 2018. There's nothing. So this guy has done nothing. He's been full duty. He's been, he was acquitted of everything. What is the holdup, and how does the CCRB have so much say in something like this? What has nothing to do on duty, Eric? And it's still, you heard now you know everything, what the games they're playing in court. He's full duty, taking police action as we speak. He doesn't have anything nefarious on his record other than this incident that unfortunately happened. Yes, CCRB wants to say, we got to decapitate this guy, even though it's off duty.
Well, that's the problem. CCRB is just, in my opinion, it's a corrupted radical agency. It's full of, and compromised of people that are just have a complete bias and disdain for law enforcement. They want to tear down law enforcement any facet that they can. And the problem also is thanks to Dermot Shea, who gave away the NYPD by disbanding anti-crime and enlawment. What he did with that was he actually was part of the inception of the disciplinary matrix, which came out in January 2021. So unfortunately, this police officer is held to a 3-year span of status. So during the 3 years right now, did he get any minor discipline? Was he involved in any cases? He has more experience, more time on the job. So these are all aggravating factors that they will use against him to try to terminate him from this case. Unless you were on the flip side and you had extreme amount of nepotism, if you fall into that tier 2 and tier 1 that I always talk about, then you get the mitigating factors. But with that, there's no chance because these police commissioners are just weak and inept, and they never push back on the CCRB. And they can. They have the authority to produce a memorandum and say they deviated from the CCRB and the disciplinary matrix, and here's why, and case closed. But yet they don't do it. They don't do it. Why? And I'll tell you why they don't do it. Because exactly what I said before, because it's not an investigative agency, it's a political agency. So they don't do it because of the political pressure. So the reality is the police commissioners are not coinciding with the police department. They work for the mayors, they're at the behest of them, and they are political themselves.
But now the problem here, Eric, is that you've had 7 police commissioners. Possibly an 8th one is going to have to deal with this incident. The incident that now is 9 years old. This guy's got a bunch of time on the job now, and you've held this pending over his head. Because so what if the police commissioner says no, he needs to be terminated? So how did this guy get acquitted? 9 years worked full duty, has been, by all measures in good standing with the job. He hasn't had any other incidents. How do you say we need to terminate this man because CCRB said so? How would that look? Because these things think people need to actually take a minute and observe this and say, what if Tish or the next police commissioner fires this cop who got cleared in a criminal court?
Well, that's the other problem, right? The CCRB has so much power of someone's career, right? We've heard numerous times in the media and people in the public that why are cops so timid by CCRB? How much authority do they really have? Well, they have the authority to change the trajectory of your career and actually stop your career. Why? Because the CCRB has a statute of limitations of 18 months. But if they determine if something you could be convicted of it as a crime in court. And so this actually did face a court. They were found not guilty. So you don't have to be convicted. Just if the CCRB believes you could be convicted, now there's no statute of limitations. So cases could go on 20 years. It could hang over your head your entire career. So anyone who's an active police officer right now that had any controversial cases should be concerned, because those cases, not only could they be reopened, but they can now be empowered and emboldened and used against them.
This case, I remember I was working in the NYPD when this case came down. But when he got acquitted, I just assumed that, that's it. He got acquitted. A jury found him not guilty. What more do you want? And apparently they want blood because they just want this guy out no matter what. I think Special Hagen said it best. She thinks that the small family might be politically connected or something, because how does this keep coming back around? The judge helped him out in Brooklyn, because you're like, this is an off-duty incident. He got cleared criminally. He's worked 9 years still in the police department. Yet now you're coming back and you want this guy's head on a spit. And each police commissioner has kicked the can down the road. And I saw someone mention that. But that's what's wrong, because you can't wait. What are we going to wait till this guy's facing the day before his 20th year? Or you're fired. Is that what we're waiting on? Because that would be a travesty. And if there needs to be a rule or a law in place, you should have a time period. And if you don't get anything done in this time period, I don't care whoever comes forward with anything, you have no case. You had this much time. He was cleared criminally. How do you now try to come back around and you hang this? It's like it's a black cloud hanging over his head when he's cleared of any wrongdoing and all these other facets, right? Forced investigation, but yet he's got a CCRB. He's got a commissioner that could just like that fire him.
So my only assumption at this point is, was there actually a lawsuit in this case? So I don't know if there was a lawsuit in this case. And if there was not a lawsuit in this case, that would be the prominence and that would be the prevalence of why they're pushing so hard for a civilian complaint even a decade later. Because if this cop is found guilty at the CCRB for anything, even a minor infraction, then he will not be indemnified, and then he'll be in debt to this family for the rest of his life if there's some type of lawsuit. So that's the reason why I see at this point. So I got to look into it. I'm not sure if there was actually a lawsuit that played out in this, but if that's not the case, if a lawsuit did not play out, that's what I could see the motivation by this family and why CCRB would push forth with this. So Chicken Wing says, yes, the family wants $10 million. So there you go. Case in point. That's exactly why they want CCRB to push. It's the final way to get this cop found guilty and to get a lawsuit imminent in this case.
Is it $10 million? That's what this is about. That would make more sense. It's once again, it's a political case, and like anything else they make with political cases, like mine would be like your number one cause of that. They wait forever, drag their feet, because anything political needs to be done. It's not done the normal way. This isn't like, Joe walks into a bank, robs it. No, you know how that's usually just, you go. It's like he gets indicted. Here's the trial. Here's the arraignment. Here's the date of court. There's nothing that interferes with that kind of stuff. Here it's political, so anything and everything is on the table. Anything you could think of is on the table. I don't know about that. There's a $10 million civil case still. I thought the civil case was 9 years ago. So that would make this even worse, because you're politicizing this is why CCRB, something that you need, but should not have as much of a say, because I mean, look at this. This is crazy that it's 9 years later. We're still talking about it. And there's a civil case.
Well, and the other problem, too, is if they decide to make this a racial profiling case, which is pretty easy for CCRB, and John and I have both proved there's no way to prove or disprove a racial profiling case. But if they make this a racial profiling case, it only makes it even more prolific, and they will definitely get some type of payout. So, Chicken Wing, thank you for your input. We appreciate it. I definitely think this comes down to a lawsuit, because typically what happens in a civilian complaint case is the lawsuit will play out after the case. What you see in numerous times, and if there's any active cops, you can tell me if you actually experience this. What you see, and Sal, maybe you've seen this yourself. What you see often is if a cop gets a civilian complaint, sometimes they'll find that complaint is removed and withdrawn, and they'll see on their record it says, a complaint withdrawn, and then they'll say, "Wow, why did they withdraw this case? What does that mean?" The reason why they withdraw it is because they'll allow it to play out, and then they'll come back with the case and then file a civilian complaint. And the reason why is because anything used as civilian complaint trial, or also by the intake that is given by the civilian complainant, who was many times, in most cases, an arrested perpetrator, their information or whatever the statements they made can be used at either a trial or a lawsuit case. So they allow it to play out first, and then they'll actually go with the lawsuit, because if the cop is found guilty, it's pretty much a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm saying it's political, because I saw Chicken Wing mention it. The reason this is political is that his criminal case was over in 2017. That could be some civil trial and everything. They brought other charges again in 2020. And then in 2023, they allowed all this stuff to continue. That's a huge gap of time to not step in somewhere and go, wait a minute, you're bringing CCRBs trying to bring something for an off-duty case? See, you have to start looking at, does anyone know anyone anywhere? Because how does this, it should have been either instant or none, which in this case, it's off-duty. I didn't know the CCRB come after you off-duty. And you have to, and then just for more context, just understand that this person's, in one instance, you have somebody who's no longer with us, right? Their family needs answers, wants answers. On the other instance, you have an officer that was cleared of any wrongdoing by all these investigative bodies. But how are you allowing this to go on for 9 years? You have to understand there's a complete disconnect there. This could have been instant the way it should have been. At least a year or two, because they have 18 months to investigate, like Eric Dym is trying to tell you. And this is why this CCRB system is a failed experiment, okay? It's a failure. And that they don't, the rules, they bend when they like or speed them up when they like. And there's no parity. There's no parity. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This should have been handled a long time ago, 9 freaking years and counting, and now it could go to an 8th police commissioner. And it sits on the desk right now of Jessica Tisch, the soccer mom, who's too busy trying to fire people for not coming in and, serving her hors d'oeuvres or whatever it is that she does. This case is pretty important, because this could be you, Officer Jane, Officer Joe. Right now, you had an incident, you got cleared, and then 9 years later, right before you retire, they're trying to hit you with this thing. And you're like, what? So, when Eric tells you about CCRB and everything, listen up. You need to listen up, because this is very important. These are more so for the guys that are working, guys and gals right now that are still on the job, because this could be you. Just like 2 days ago, I had Faison on. Yeah, everybody has their opinion, and well, that could be you. So you just need to remember that. And this I find egregious that it's 9 years later. And yeah, you're right. MDRN Summarize says you have to remember that CCRB, CDs, charges, etc., they all affect their credibility as a witness. This helps them throw out cases and DP cases with ease and run up lawsuits as well. And if you want to bring this up, because now that you brought it up, Keyshawn Sewell signed off on a 20-day penalty for Kaz Dawdry, who perjured himself and lied about an entire case. So he did what they said. I said, I gave you misleading statements. He did. He didn't get terminated, which is what they said. Oh, I got to terminate Sal Greco for misleading statements. He got promoted 8 ranks up, and it wasn't even Sewell. She signed off on something that Chief Pinto signed off for her, or whatever, how he signed off on it. So this system is a joke. This is what we're looking to change, because that is how careers are made and careers are destroyed, and you get the wrong person in the street. I mean, you have anything to say about that, Eric?
Sure. I got to push back on this response here. That's from our friend Hard X Core. Hard X Core says, I had multiple CCRBs unfounded and exonerated under de Blasio's CCRB. It can be done, be articulate and honest. Well, I was very articulate and very honest when it came to my cases. Most of those cases were forced arrests. The most violent perpetrators were illegal firearms. Now, I would actually put my money on it, Hard X Core, that those cases were probably before 2018. So de Blasio got in office of 2014. The reason why I say that is 2018 moving forward, the legislation changed and CCRB had gotten more funding, more authority, more power, and it became more of a political agency, and it changed. And if you were a target under the CCRB from 2018 moving forward, and especially with the inception of the disciplinary matrix, much changed, and it got far more worse.
By the way, the disciplinary matrix says, with misleading statements, things like that. So Kaz Dardry not being terminated, there needs to be a reason. There needs to be a reason why Sewell deviated from what the punishment is. Same thing with me. They say criminal association is 30 days or whatever, 15 days. And she deviated from that. So there needs to be a letter, something from the police commissioner. It doesn't exist. So again, now you're looking at how the discipline system works, how they deviate from it, and that really it doesn't matter. It only matters, like, what did Faison say? What you just said before. It only matters when it comes down to you. That's when it matters. Right now, it's okay because a lot of people maybe in here, they got away with things. They didn't get away with things. It didn't affect them. But when it affects you, it's going to matter. And all I'm saying is we're trying to change it from this perspective of we went through it and we don't want this to happen to the next guy. I don't like seeing this. I feel sorry for this incident that happened. But if you think it's okay that 9 years later you're going to come, Johnny Q Law wants to come back 9 years later and a statute of limitations on, I don't even know that this stuff is like, this is like a double jeopardy case. You get cleared in a criminal matter, but 9 years later we want to fire you for that same thing that you got cleared 9 years ago. Oh, and you were an outstanding employee. You were working here, and there's nothing wrong about how you work. It's just we got to politically do this because that's what this looks like, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I think the timing is impeccable, and I don't believe in coincidence. But look at the fact that Eric Adams now has two months left as mayor. He could care less at this point. And we got the inception and mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani coming January 1st. And we've also heard about the potential policy and plan to have CCRB have the final say in dismissal. And now, when it comes to discipline case of CCRB, and now this case has actually popped up again and surfaced. Along with that case, we also know that the Wynn Rosario case is very prolific. And Jessica Tisch did not dismiss that case. She's allowing that case to play out. How convenient. And she might stay on as police commissioner. So I think that all these things come full circle. And again, if you're an active police officer, especially if you're active, not just active that you're on the job, because there's many that are active retired, which means they're empty suits, unfortunately. But if you're an active police officer doing intrusive police work, you not only have to be concerned about what you're doing today and what complaints could come forward, but you have to be concerned about other complaints in your career that can be reopened and, again, reestablished and held against you in your career. And nothing is grandfathered when it comes to the NYPD. That was my argument. The discipline matrix didn't meet its inception until January 21, but yet the discipline matrix was held against me for CCRB cases of January of 2018. So I don't see that upholding here. And again, weak police commissioners, as you said, I said, John said, and we don't see any change in leadership. If anything, we know what we're getting with Jessica Tisch, and if anything, things have gotten worse. And under Zohran Mamdani, if she stays on, and I do believe she will, it's only going to get that much worse.
Yeah, and the thing is what you're just saying, how they want to take the authority away from the police commissioner and the CCRB. That would have to go through legislation. because there's this. I think it's in the city charter, and I think the state. Now remember, Zohran Mamdani was a state legislator. He's got a lot of friends up there. He was an empty suit assemblyman. I don't think it'd be too hard for him to get that change, but then it would go to Kathy Hochul, who again needs his endorsement to get reelected. So the chances of all of that happening, I'd say, are a lot higher than people think, of having CCRB have the final say on your employment status per se right now because of who was elected, because he could do that. Whether, I don't know if he will, if he's not. I'm just giving you a scenario where there's a pathway to having CCRB have the final say. And they could use any example, like this case, the Rosario case. I mean, it could be any one of them. Or, you know, the soccer mom takes it in the chin and says, yeah, I'm firing him. And then she takes responsibility for one of the most inconsequential reigns as police commissioner in the history of the NYPD. You know, but again, I think it's important to highlight this stuff because if you're on the job, and it should get national attention, if you're on the job, like anything else, you expect a certain amount of time where you have something that's called due process, right? Where did this guy's due process go? 9 years later? And he's working right now. He's not under suspension. He's not modified. You can't do it anyway. It'd be 9 years later. He passed. He cleared all the hurdles. So why is this? No police commissioner wanted to make that decision because they wanted to, at a certain point, you got to say to yourself, well, they'll use this as a political football because that's what this becomes. And that's what I'm saying. They made this into a political issue when it wasn't. It was a pretty much a clear cut. It's something that's straightforward. Either after you clear them, you say goodbye to this stuff, or you go ahead and say, okay, I'm gonna punish him 30 days, you know, whatever. He committed he violated something. I don't even know what he violated. He's off duty. Like I don't even know. Like, didn't he do all those procedures correctly? Yeah, you could have a lawsuit. I understand that a family. They did the same thing. Eric Garner, all these, they all do the same thing. That's usually what happens. But to hold this guy accountable 9 years later, and it's off duty. I want to keep throwing that out there. And it just shows you, I mean, this thing is just, you got to really have your head examined if you want to go forward and do this job. You know?
Yeah, Nike had 27 says it. What's up, my friend? How you doing? 2 years on probation and illusion. Your probation is until the day you retire. Yep. And Rob Lucash says it best right here. Rob says NYPD and due process don't do together. They don't go together in a sentence. It's absolutely right. The only due process that you get in the NYPD is if you're tier 1 and tier 2. So obviously these cops are part of general population. So the problem with the Civilian Complaint Review Board, obviously I told you it's a political agency, it's not an investigative body, is the fact that ultimately they have more authority than anything when it comes to oversight because they don't have statute of limitations. So things can hang over your head. The other problem, which I anticipate being an issue, is the disciplinary matrix. Now, the disciplinary matrix was written, it says it's a living body, so it could constantly evolve. So I anticipate when Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor that the disciplinary matrix will be looked at and it will be changed. So a lot of the infractions that are in the disciplinary matrix that you could find yourself losing penalty vacation days could actually end up leading, the change could be till termination. So I anticipate that. We should look out for that coming soon.
And that was the key. So the NYPD under Zohran Mamdani as the mayor now, we still don't know who's the commissioner. We don't know any of that stuff yet. What do you see the NYPD as under Zohran Mamdani?
So I'm going to foresee, my assumption and my observation and my guess is that Jessica Tisch will stay on as short term. I don't believe that she'll do the entire tenure for 4 years. I believe it will be short term. And the reason why is because Zohran Mamdani not only wants to change policy, but he wants to change the culture of the NYPD being at the bottom of the pecking order. So while we might get some of these weak, inept potential former leaders of the NYPD like Rodney Harrison and Abbasi to lead the NYPD under Zohran Mamdani, they still are institutionalized, you could say, that under the culture of the NYPD, where Jessica Tisch doesn't have that. because she wasn't a former police officer. So I do believe if they came on, they would actually have the culture of the NYPD. That would take some time to change. So I believe he'll keep Jessica Tisch on as the police commissioner for those reasons. But the matrix, the disciplinary matrix, and Frankie Palagucci mentions it, the matrix is rigged, and he knows best. He just faced it now in the administrative court where he had a frivolous and fictitious and bullshit case. But the disciplinary matrix was weighed heavily. And that's the problem with that disciplinary matrix. And it could only get worse under Zohran Mamdani. We heard that there was pushback from Key Chansul when it came to disciplinary matrix, and we saw nothing. John and I actually did an episode about 3 years ago in the inception of the podcast, and if anything, things got worse. Things got worse. So Hidden Mayor in New York City says, what can Ronnie Harrison change? Ronnie Harrison not necessarily can change things, but he can actually have a backbone and say, hey, if you want me to be a police commissioner, this is the way a police department is supposed to be run. This is the way things are going to look. And if you don't want it to look that way, I can't be a police commissioner. Instead, what we see is self-imaging and self-promoting weak men who will say, hey, if you want the police officer to walk around with pink cuffs and pink ball gags, who do you want us to hire to actually get that product from?
Yeah, the only thing is with Rodney Harrison is he had a little problem in Suffolk County, whether it be for the timesheets or whether it be because he might be a little handsy, same thing that Cuomo and all the other people have, might be an issue. So I don't know if he could actually be the police commissioner. I think that is not you do not want to, like, it's just open. You're coming in with, if there's anything, I would suspect that Mamdani does not want to put a controversy, all the scandals that they've seen, he's got to actually try to clean this up, because you can't walk in and have the same issues that Eric Adams brought to you, having the same kind of, we'll say, people of low integrity as your, employees underneath you that run a city agencies. That would be crazy that he does that. I doubt that, but that's why I don't see Harrison being the police commissioner, only because he walks in with scandals. He could be a deputy mayor, but he can't be a police commissioner. Is they gonna that already shows you, all right, business as usual, nothing's changed here. 92 Charlie said new PC will just be a figurehead who will have no say in discipline or policy. This new deputy mayor of public safety will be the new person in charge. In this administration, that's how it was. I don't know how Mamdani is going to be, because Eric brought this in. This position wasn't around. It really didn't have a say until, what was it, in the 90s, I think they used it. It popped back around recently. It wasn't, you didn't have a deputy mayor of public safety. It was a long time ago they used that position, and it was always a police commissioner. So this is kind of like a way to end around the police commissioner. Hey, Hardex Course says, FYI, 1PP is still filled with Crumb's crew members. Tisch didn't clear any corruption out. They're also filled with Con Sofrito members, and one in particular, the self-admitted criminal mob associate himself was in Somos with Mamdani and all these other people. So this doesn't go away when you don't handle it the way it should be handled. They come back around, and they come back around and haunt you. So because they didn't get any of these things done, right? Now these people come back around and do the same thing they did again, unless you basically, tumors and cancers grow. Unless you cut it out, they grow. So you didn't do anything about it prior. What are you going to do about it now? It keeps growing. It's growing. Now it's infecting other people, and it's getting worse, right? So the whole building's infected, which means that's infecting the agency, which is now affecting the people in the street. So when we talk about certain people that now run out there, they're on, they want to use their social media, which is a joke, and try to make a difference on things. Certain people are the reason there's this mass exodus from the police department, right? That is a question for Eric. You really think there's 5,000 people? I don't know. Some guy put a video out there. 5,000 people are going to leave the police department on January 1st because Zohran Mamdani is the mayor?
No, not at all. I know damn well, and unfortunately, it's the reality. I'm not trying to insult the police officer. They know it too. If tomorrow they're going to get a mayor that says everyone has to wear ball gags, well, they're going to justify it why they have to wear pink ball gags, and they're going to do it. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. It doesn't matter if tomorrow, was his name? Sabuki, who was running for mayor. If he's the police commissioner or he's the mayor, they're not going anywhere. If they're leaving because morale is in the toilet. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. Yes, we could have the best mayor in the world, and that could make things a little bit better and a little bit easier. However, who do I blame for the morale and who do I blame for the mass exodus? I blame the upper echelon, the police department, and the police commissioner. It's the chief of department. John Shell, just want to remind you, it was only a couple of weeks ago that you were the chief of department and morale was in the toilet. It's the failure, it's the weak leadership of why the morale is in the toilet. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. Rudy Giuliani was probably one of the best mayors we've ever had. And morale was pretty solid, but it was because the leadership at the time supported them because they felt they had the support of the mayor. But if we had, and that's why I'm saying, if we had strong leadership, even if we don't have the support of the mayor, and they said, hey, we're not going to do this job in this fashion. The only way that we could operate is in this manner. That would be support for the police department. That would build morale. And then the cops wouldn't be leaving anywhere. They left under former Mayor Bill de Blasio, and they left in numbers we've never seen before under Mayor Eric Adams. So the mass exodus is not happening under Zohran Mamdani. It's happening right now under Eric Adams. Why? Because the leadership like John Shell and this jellyfish, Michael LaPetri, and all these other 2- and 3-star chiefs that are completely complicit and compromised in the NYPD, they're the responsibility. Yes, Eric Adams is a failure, but I blame them for the morale. I blame them for the morale being in the toilet. And if they're blaming Zohran Mamdani, well, they're the ones to blame. Because if Ronnie Harrison decides he wants to be the police commissioner, and if he gets the job, and if morale's in the toilet, it's his fault.
Yeah, I that's the only thing I worry about. I still don't see him becoming the police commissioner, only because you're bringing in a guy with scandals. It just they can't do this again. Mamdani's people have to know we can't allow what happened with Eric Adams to happen with you. The only reason Eric is not reelected mayor and wasn't mayor is because he's greedy. And the people he brought in were corruptible, and or he corrupted them. You're either corruptible or you are corrupt. That's how Eric Adams kept his entire administration. So that's why he's no longer the mayor. Otherwise, he'd be the mayor again. I mean, there's some of you running with the narrative that not only is the MAGA mayor, which is hysterical, but he was the mayor that brought crime down. Are you in, like, do you not read numbers? Do you not see what's going on out there? Tell me, get on a train in New York City and tell me you feel safe. I've gotten so many videos of the train, the subways, the incidents there that you start to say to yourself, some of these made up, but they're not. They're legit. Whether it's a stabbing, it's an assault, guys acting crazy, going around. I saw one guy try to get in a woman's face. These are just recent in the last week or two. There's tons of them all under the Eric Adams administration. So you guys are saying his crime is dead. Some of you do say that Eric Adams wasn't that bad. So you're willing to accept mediocrity if it doesn't affect your life, kind of. Oh, well, it's okay. And that's the problem. You accept mediocrity when, it doesn't really affect me. Well, I don't really care. So it's okay. Meanwhile, you should want the best. And clearly Eric Adams wasn't the best. This guy is yet to be, we'll yet to see what he does. I'm not, entirely optimistic over it, but I've always given people a chance. So that's why you don't see me jumping. I'm sick of hearing about this guy's religion. I'm sick of it. He's an establishment Democrat. You're getting an establishment Democrat. No different than Bill de Blasio. That's it. They're going to go back to universal child care, which is something everyone, including that fake Republican Joe Borelli, loved, and another city councilwoman who, there's a lot of rumors with the call yourself Republican when you're really not, but, he's going to implement the same thing that's been going on. That's all we've been trying to tell you. Yet somehow you're still elected. It's unbelievable. That's 18 to 29 females, 18 to 29 voted for Zohran Mamdani in like 84% of some crazy number. That's the reason you got him, by the way. 18 to 29. They don't even know what life is.
Well, it's like the tale of two cities. I think for the most part, you look at New York City, it's transplants that identify as New Yorkers, but they're not actually born and bred New Yorkers. And they're young. most of them, either maybe they were 3 or 4 years old at the time of 9/11, or they were just born, or maybe born right afterwards, and don't understand what the city was like and what the city has become. And yes, crime is out of control right now, but still it has a different vibe than it did in the late 80s and the 90s, where it was far more gritty and had a different vibe in New York City than it does right now. And we're just allowing Democrats to continue to stay in office. And obviously New York City wants to get to that point. And the people right now just don't understand that it was the NYPD police officers with their boots on the ground that have brought the city to where it is right now. And Zohran Mamdani and Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo and former Mayor Bill de Blasio don't feel that the NYPD should be at the top of the pecking order, believe that the NYPD somehow falls into that as just a supplement and a tool. And under Zohran Mamdani, if these policies play out because weak leadership of the NYPD says, yeah, okay, we agree with it, and they know damn well it's dangerous to the community, dangerous to the city and the residents, well, you know what? They have a lot of blame, and if there's blood, the blood will be on their hands too. And so that's why I say the mass exodus is not because of the mayor. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. It could be the worst mayor. It could be someone that's just completely inept, that has no clue what's going on in the city. If the morale is strong in the NYPD, they're not going anywhere. Cops don't leave without an exit plan. And look, let's look at the reality. If cops have the opportunity to be reinstated right now that were fired as New York City workers, they're going to go on with Zohran Mamdani being the mayor because they need a job. So it doesn't matter. What's important is the morale of the job. If the morale is whole, then all these things, harsh conditions and low salary and, inadequate unions, it won't matter because morale will be strong, and that's what keeps them on the job. The reason why we stayed on the job was because morale was good.
Mm-hmm.
Morale was good, right? We had outside external factors, right? We had unfair discipline. We had the media that hated us, the public that hated us, but we had morale, and that's gone. That's in the toilet.
I agree. And I see here Jeff P. saying, rumor with New Jersey Chief Association, it's going to be Abbasi as the police commissioner. If it is, look, you can't have Ronnie. I'm just telling you, Ronnie Harrison brings scandal. It's going to look the same way as it did under Eric Adams. Abbasi, at least, is a guy that doesn't have any scandals. Yeah, he might be politically connected, but he's we'll say, he got plenty of awards in the police department. He did a lot of different things. So he's definitely fit for the job. Not saying Rodney Harrison isn't. The problem with Rodney Harrison is they're going to go back to those scandals. And it's going to be every day with that. So to avoid that, you'd rather go with Abbasi than Harrison if that's the route he takes. I don't know. I'm not Zohran. I don't have any insight on that. But that's just me speaking on a political level, too. You want to avoid that stuff. 92 Charlie said all the urban pioneers in New York City wanted this, meaning Mamdani. When you mention 18 to 29 voters, that is a generation that either A, can't remember what happened on 9/11, is they were in diapers, or B, weren't even born yet. And if those people are voting, they're voting under a completely different America, because what we remembered, we're like dinosaurs now, remembering that day and everything that happened. That was a different world. The world changed on that day. And these people that were born either after or were in diapers then are now telling you this vision, the way things have gone, it's gone worse. Those people that bring in the things that are worse, that's what we want. That's essentially what has been going on. Special Hagen's great. Harrison has too many ties with the Crumbs Adams crew. I think is the same thing.
Well, I take issue to Rodney Harrison, right? Because I heard Rodney Harrison on Mike Cologne's podcast, and anybody has a chance to watch it. New Mike Haven or something like Mike Cologne, great kid.
Yeah, Mike Cologne, good guy.
That's a great podcast. Rodney Harrison was on there, and he was in internal affairs at the time Daniel Pantaleo was terminated. And Rodney Harrison said damn well that Daniel Pantaleo got a raw deal. And yet he never spoke up when he was chief and when he was working and Daniel Pantaleo got terminated. He never spoke up then. But yet we expect him to speak up now. Never spoke up and allowed Daniel Pantaleo to get terminated. And Daniel Pantaleo represented every cop out there doing intrusive police work. Mm-hmm. So he didn't stand up for him then. And some people say, oh, what is he supposed to do? It's career suicide. Oh, well, Daniel Pantaleo lost his entire life. Not only was he terminated, but his whole life was changed. So, yes, sometimes you have to stand in front of a bus for your people to protect them. You know, that's what makes the Marine so special. And I don't expect anyone to do it. And I don't know if I could ever do it myself. But when you become a Marine and you're in boot camp, and I also went to officer candidate school, you walk through a leadership course and you see these historical pictures of former Marines and a story behind it of how they jumped on grenades to save other Marines. And you say to yourself, how does someone do that? It's because they felt it, and the camaraderie and morale was so strong that they wanted to protect their fellow men. And I'm not saying these chiefs need to jump on a grenade, but figuratively speaking, some of them need to jump on a grenade to protect their people, and they never would. Instead, they would dodge that and they would throw you on the grenade. That's the difference.
I agree. Hardex Course says it's great comments. Kinsella is the first depth spot, is the single biggest WTF moment. LOL, marble mouth. You imagine her sticking around? I mean, Jesus, who knows? But that I keep seeing in the comments, Joel Ramirez, everybody, Michael Freed, the rumor is Abbasi's the police commissioner and Harrison is the first deputy commissioner. Look, like I said, if they became that, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I'm just telling you, I think Harrison needs to be in the other spot because it's going to be politically an issue if he's the police commissioner. Abbasi, like I said, has the credentials for it. And then we'll see what the agenda is moving forward. But I know Abbasi was a guy that liked to work. So he probably would like active cops. But we'll see, because de Blasio was supposed to put Phil Banks as the police commissioner. Instead, who did we end up getting? We got Bill Bratton. You got Bratton 2.0. Everybody was excited. And then you end up a few years later going, what the hell? This is not the Bill Bratton I remember. And the rest is history. But he had Bratton, O'Neill, and then Shea. Three guys that you would normally not think de Blasio would like. He's anti-cop kind of guy, but he had three guys that the cops loved. So again, you never know how these people think. So before you go, Eric, there's a video that's out there, and I want to play this. This is an incident from Baltimore. This Baltimore police officer apparently got fired over this. So let's just see this video, and I'm going to get your take on it.
No, all right.
Yeah, what's your reason to stop him? You ain't even got no reason to stop him, bro. Hey, yo, walk off. I'm gonna hit the alley, yo. Go ahead, Trey. Walk off, yo. He beating. They ain't even got no reason to stop him. Hey, yo, what the? You gonna hit him with the car? Yo, what the, bro? Yo, hell no, yo. Hey, yo. Come back this way, yo. Yo, beating, bro. Austin. You crashing it all that. You really crashing out, bro. Really crashing out, bro. You crashed his car and all that, bro. You really trying to hit my mind, bro. You really trying to hit, bro, with the car and all that.
Yeah, so what happened there, Eric, is this officer was actually charged with a crime for that. He got suspended. This is in Baltimore, which is already a city that's failed itself. What do you take on that? Because I don't know exactly the crime he committed. I know it might be a little reckless what he's doing. He could have just ran after the guy, go over the radio, say, I need another car here. He took the car. He's running around. He never hit him. He's running around and chasing the guy, which is a little reckless. Again, it could be internal decision. I don't know about a crime being committed other than he wrecked the car, and that could be a problem, again, internally. If that's considered a crime, Well, I don't know. What is his take on that? This guy getting charged with a crime for that.
So it's complete overreach. But what I don't know is there's a lot of context missing from this interaction. We don't know what happened and what transpired before the video started to play. We don't know what crimes being investigated. We don't know what was going on in the area that day or that week or what led to this interaction. We don't know if this police officer was already, did he know that these particular adversaries, when they known to him? So we don't know anything about that. So we can only make an assessment just on that interaction. So that's why I say sometimes you're fighting optics more than policy. So I don't know what their policies are. If that was a perpetrator wanted for a crime, if they're allowed to pursue and try to stop him or hit them with the car. So we don't know what his intentions were either, because he never actually struck him. Was he actually trying to strike him or just put some fear to get him to stop? We don't know what he was investigating. But just based on the appearance of it and the optics, it looks a little reckless. It looks a little silly and foolish. But at the same token, I think that it's an overreach to charge him with a crime. I think it's outrageous. It could be just a conversation between him and his superiors on, hey, maybe sometimes it's better to shelter in place and have more discipline. And then maybe we could utilize by getting more units there and then surrounding our adversary and perpetrator. But to charge him with a crime is absurd. And again, we just see the weight and the scale of the systems on how they're actually utilized when it comes to the crime, when it comes towards civilians who could be potential perpetrators in comparison to police officers. And sometimes, well, we hear that, police officers have a certain expectation. Now, it does look a little foolish. It looks a little wild, but we don't know what transpired before. So it does look, just by the looks. We're only going by looks because that's all I can see. HFL says, come on, Eric. Yeah, it looks a little crazy. It does look silly. But as Sal said, we can't be Minority Report. In the end, he never did strike him. He never hit him. And we don't know what he was wanted for. So I don't think he needs to be charged or terminated, but it can be dealt with in-house.
I agree. I don't know what the entire incident transpired. I have no idea. I know that this video is on, I believe it was on even Breaking 911 on X, and it stated that he was charged with a crime for that. And a lot of people were commenting whether they're for it or against it. I see lone silence as 100% reckless, deserves suspension until full investigation as to what led to all of that. Then a final decision can be made. Billy Blasto said, Eric, have you ever been to the trial room? They wanted 30 in a year. Took the desk camera, said I wanted a photo of the judge who ended my career. Took a hit for 10 days, no assault, abuse of authority. I think this case looks like that. I think it looks like a case of, you could say, abuse of authority, but he didn't hit him with the car. I don't know what his intentions were. Did this guy have a weapon? I don't know. I just know that he got hit with that. From what I'm seeing, this is clearly an internal, this guy could be punished for a lot of infractions. He could be suspended, which he was, but to charge him with a crime would mean he did something. I want to know what he did wrong, other than be reckless. Yeah, it's reckless. Is it a crime? No. I've seen cops do some crazy things that nothing occurs from. Crazy, things that I'll never really get into, that were like, you were driving and what happened? And they're just lucky that they didn't get into an accident doing that kind of stupid thing. But here, I don't know. Is he chasing the guy? I have no idea. But it doesn't.
Is it reckless? Honestly, we don't know if it's reckless. It looks reckless just by.
It looks reckless.
We don't know. Was this adversary wanted for a potential shooting early in the day? We don't know.
No,
we don't know. There's a lot of context information, so I don't know. Now, I think Marlon, you spot on. You nailed it right here. He was fired because it's Baltimore and they don't want to riot. Exactly that. Because Baltimore, the community is known to respond outlandish and respond in riots when it comes to cops. And we've seen it before. So I think Marlon hit it spot on. Again, it looks reckless. And I think that's why, unfortunately, as a cop, you're fighting optics. We're just going by looks. Just by look. Yeah, it looks reckless. But is that adversary, that person of interest, potentially wanted for a shooting? I mean, I think people are assuming that it's just the cop had a bad day and got pissed off. Maybe this guy said something to him, but we don't know what transpired. We don't know if he's wanted for something. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a trained law enforcement officer. And I would say that, hopefully based on that this adversary was wanted for something. I mean, he was a big guy, probably can't outrun him, and tried to stop him. And with the car, is it reckless because could he hit him? But who knows? Maybe he's preventing another crime or a shooting. But I think ultimately Marlon spot on hit it. In either case, even if it was reckless, and just by the looks, it appears that way. I don't think the punishment fits the crime. I don't think he should be charged with a crime or terminated. I think in-house discipline can definitely rectify the issue if there is one.
I think it'd be severe punishment for that. But just looking at that, though, I would say there's like severe consequences. You know, you could be put on probation. To charge a guy with a crime, though, I don't know. And you got to know more the larger landscape, because there had to have been an incident either prior or who is this guy? Does he know him? Did he, is there a weapon on this guy? I don't know. You never really hear anything other than this guy keeps talking. He's filming, he's the community jailhouse lawyer, so I don't know. But his actions look absurd in that you're going, why would anyone do that when you, like I said, you call the radio, get other cops there. But to say this guy needs to get fired for that and charge him on top of it. Look, his actions might be termination. I don't know what the rules are in Baltimore, but to charge him with a crime, I don't know. If I guess crashing a car is a crime, that's the only thing I could think of. He didn't hit anyone.
But ultimately, context is important. That's what we're missing. So let's rhetorically say if we heard that he was wanted for shooting someone earlier in the day or possibly a rape, and this cop tried to run him down, I think people would think differently. So we're missing a lot of context that transforms what transpired. So what transpired could be looked at something differently. If it was just, hey, this guy pissed off the cop and insulted him, yeah, then it's reckless. But if this guy's wanted for shooting a kid, God forbid, then it's not so reckless. So it really depends on the context of what we're missing.
I'm also thinking of I've seen the things when you're talking to someone or the guy starts to move a little bit and you take the car and you try to speed up because he's about to run or he's running and you stop. You race the car up, then you stop and you get out and run after him. But he didn't run after him, so that's the thing. So I don't know because again that's what I'm used to is. You see something, you go up there and you get out of the car. Because on foot is easy to chase the guy than with a car. The guy go down a small alley where you're going with a car,
Also, I don't know. And I've done it before either. He could have been creating a diversion. Maybe try to chase him with the car a little bit. He didn't hit him. I believe it looked like he could. He didn't hit him to get him to run to the alley where the other cops are responding. So it could be diversion. Again, it's all optics. And we're just going based on what we see. And we know nothing about who is the perpetrator? If he is a perpetrator, what transpired in the day? Who is this cop? What is he looking for? What is he trying to stop? So we don't know anything. So it looks crazy. Joel Ramirez, my brother, he said earlier, Eric, it looks crazy. It does look crazy, but we're going just by looks. And unfortunately, things can't be judged by the cover. So if we go just by looks, yeah, looks bad. But we need to dig down to the surface and find out what exactly happened. So that's why it's important for Baltimore to put out with transparency what happened. Tell us what happened so that we can make a determination.
And Marlon says it good here. Also, reckless itself in the context of policing is often only really reckless when things go sideways. There's a very thin line between a judgment call and reckless. And he's 100% right. So it's something without too much, we don't have a full context of it, but it's out there. You'll see this video. It's floating around. It's definitely this guy definitely got charged for this, so criminally. So there should be something people look into and go, what exactly happened there, and how do you charge the guy? It may if something happened before that camera was going on, who knows? From what I'm seeing in the video, though, it's really more. It looks like a lot of internal, they're breaking a lot of. He might be breaking procedures. Who knows? And I don't know Baltimore PD's own procedures, but. Again, if there is a problem, they will riot over there. You know that. And Baltimore is like a failed city in itself. If you think New York City's bad, Baltimore's up there. I think Baltimore might be worse. You don't want to be in certain part of Baltimore, late at night. We'll put it like that.
Listen, Baltimore notoriously has been known for just problems with their politicians for years. It's just a legislative body that's not one that should be emulated. It's a deteriorating city. Parts of it. I mean, there's some parts of it that are beautiful. But there are parts of it just deteriorating. I think 60% of people in Baltimore at some point were hooked on heroin. So it's been faced a lot of times. And with some severe issues. And
Oh, what happened? You got froze? Man. Yeah, that video, Baltimore, that video happened in Baltimore. I don't know the full extent of what happened prior to that video being turned on, but I know that he's being charged. There you go. What happened? You froze, Eric. I think your Starlink isn't working, Eric.
sorry, I just had a power outage. So
Oh my God.
I just had a power outage over here. But yeah, that's the bottom line is I think that we're missing context. I would like to know, and that's what I expect from Baltimore and their leadership to put out there. What transpired before? What was this cop? What was the encounter? Was he a person of interest? Was this person wanted for something? Is wearing some type of heavy coat? Did he have an illegal firearm? Was he investigating crime? And we know it doesn't matter. Some people would say right now, well, the cop was charged with a crime. Police officer, the 4-4 precinct has been battling for over a year, an assault case where he arrested a violent perpetrator with a firearm, and the police officer had to strike him with the radio, and that police officer is facing a crime right now. So it doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is it's good to show these things so people see that policing is a contact sport, right? Is that what John always says? So that anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. That's an incident like, wow, what happened there? But your Starlink's playing. I know you're gonna have to go, Eric, because you definitely want something's happening there on your side. So.
I'm back in action. I'm used to adversity. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I know, but I figure I'll let you have the rest of your day. You're busy over there.
No,
so
thank you, brother.
Tomorrow you'll be on, right? 8:05 in the morning.
Tomorrow we got our roundtable. It's, good stuff. Please tune forward to it. 8:05 live. Of course, myself, John, and Marlon, and we'll give you what's going on in the week, what's going on in New York City. Stay up in front. Sal, you're doing a hell of a job. That show with Faison featuring Eric Sanders was awesome. I got to admit, I assumed he was a DEI hire, but after hearing his resume, I was pretty impressed that he was a pilot himself and also a certified instructor. And, Jack, thanks for promoting and producing. So, Jack, let's do his thing. Guys, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Have a great day. There you have it, folks. The great Eric Dym. I think it was good having him on to break this all down because there was a lot about the CCRB and people are worried in the NYPD, especially what would Zohran Mamdani do? Who's he going to have? And also the whole this discipline case with Officer Isaacs and the incident. 9 years is a long time. I'm just telling you that is CCRB 9 years holding a pendulum over you. Oh yes, we go left, we go right. We don't know, And meanwhile, the guy's working full duty without having any issues. Not a good look. It's certainly political to do that. So let's have Jack on. Get the producer's take. I know you heard a lot of stuff. They actually had 2 shows in a row. You heard a lot about inside baseball with the New York City Police Department.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. But with Eric Dym and his connectivity issues, I'm beginning to think that he actually lives in a cave somewhere in the middle of the woods, and he just puts a green screen up to give off the deception that he's at an RV, because it's always like he's in Alaska, he's in Hawaii, he's in Europe, he's who knows where. I mean, he's like Dora the Explorer traveling all over the country and the world. And I have to imagine with the connectivity problems, he's actually in a cave where he's like jerry rigging the Wi-Fi like a caveman through some outlets or plugging something into a rock. And I don't know, it's always cool to have Eric on because you don't really know where he is or what he's doing, but he always has great opinion-based analysis on everything going on in police, whether it be in New York City or Baltimore.
Somebody just put in there, what's that? MDRN Samurai said that there's an X article saying they charged that cop with attempted murder for that.
Oh, really?
That would be. Yeah. I don't know about that one. I mean, you could say a lot. You could say that about a lot of incidents. I still need more. There needs to be more context to that entire story. It's just a crazy video that
it's like you're only getting a portion of what happened, and there could have been a very violent lead up where the perpetrator had a gun or the police officer was threatened in some form or fashion, and that was excluded from the video contextually, which kind of sways public perception about what actually transpired and took place. And with the nature of our media industry nowadays, there's a danger in telling a single story too, because you see that video on X, and then CNN starts talking about how an officer tried to kill someone in Baltimore, and then everyone else believes that's what happened, but we don't really have all the details and the information contextually, which probably excludes some of the most important stuff as it pertains to a case like this one, which ended up becoming very violent with the police officer crashing his car.
Yeah, I mean, I say, like I said, there needs to be a lot more context to that, and I don't know if he hit if there was attempted murder on that. I thought there'd be something else, like he did something. I mean, just because look, I know it looks. If that's the only thing you're going with, I don't know, because I see someone. I think a chicken wing keeps mentioning Pagan. I think Pagan was an officer that he got hit with something for doing something in the same ballpark. We'll say in the same kind of same kind of incident where it was like chasing a guy and running around and doing all that kind of stuff. But in that incident, like I said, I think that's highly like a bush league thing to do if he's just chasing the guy around with the car. No, attempted murder though. I don't know about that. It's a stretch.
It's a good thing in a sense that there's so much discourse and discussion around that video, because in a nutshell, it speaks to some of the issues that are transpiring with the CCRB. I mean, if the CCRB is making judgments based on 90-second clips, that was only a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's very dangerous because you're not taking into account everything that took place and the various stories. And I mean, it's sad in a sense that we live in a society where we're so fast to judge to conclusions, and people who either don't like cops or really like cops are going to come to a conclusion very quickly either way. But for those of us who are more neutral and want to be objective and fair to both sides, it's wholly unfair that we're forced to make these decisions based on small clips.
Yes, right here. MDRN Samurai said Baltimore police officer Robert A. Parks is now facing second-degree murder, attempted murder, first-degree assault, second-degree assault, reckless driving, and misconduct in office. So that's what I'm trying to say. The video in itself it could be misconduct regarding because this is why you investigate people in an interview. And if I were to interview this guy as you know, I'm representing like internal affairs or whatever the hell you want to call me, officer, the protocol says blah blah blah, whatever Baltimore PD is, but it's going to be in the same ballpark. Why would you have done what you did in the vehicle when, if you know you need help, why didn't you radio other vehicles in the area? And why would you want to use your vehicle in that manner? Like you chase the guy up and down the street. I'm just saying, like, these are things that I want to hear coming out of what happened. Oh, I see. Chicken Wing said, of course, because he charged the perp with discount. It's that's what I'm saying. I don't know, like that. That's why if you do things like this will probably scare people. That's why people don't want to be a cop.
It's also seeing this guy riding around by himself, having to deal with perps. If he had a partner, I have to believe that this would have unfolded a little bit differently with them divvying up the responsibilities there. Maybe one tries to apprehend the guy, the other person sneaks up behind him. Tactically speaking, it changes the relationship dynamic between the perpetrator and the police officer when you're trying to apprehend the individual by yourself. It can get intimidating and overwhelming for a lot of police officers, especially working in urban, violent cities like St. Louis, Baltimore, Chicago, others where police officers are riding around solo. It's not like New York or LA where they have the partner rule where you're with someone else.
You know, and further, you know, MDRN Samurai said, Sal, you know, they are going to release the worst part of video because the narrative is cops are bad. That's right. You know, Marlon said too, it's all in the articulation, buddy. It is. I don't know exactly like that. That's why you have to ask him these questions I'm saying, because you need to know, did he radio back up? I don't know. There could have been no other cops that day. Who knows? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You need to know his intent. What is it? What was he thinking? Who else was working? Why would you do that when there's other ways of handling this? But again, attempted murder. I mean, look, technically, I give you a scenario. I'm in the street. I'm on a corner. I'm trying to stop a car on foot, right? I see a car, no headlights. He keeps coming. He keeps coming. He doesn't see me using everything to get him to stop, and he almost hits me. Is that attempted murder on a police officer? This guy didn't stop? And then I jump in a car and pull him over, and he clearly says, I didn't see you. I didn't know. I didn't see it. So I'm telling you, this could go both ways. We could do this all day long. The question is, what's this guy's intent, right? Because you're saying attempted murder. So you're saying this guy woke up to go to work to intentionally run over someone with a car. Because that's what you remember. You have to think of this as it happens. So it's good for a discussion. And everybody could talk about incidents and what cops shouldn't do or should do or how to handle a situation. But attempted murder's I think it's a little out there. Reckless driving might have been more like a reckless drive, but not attempted murder. Attempted murder. But when you try to run over a cop trying to pull you over on foot, is that attempted murder? Because I haven't seen that hit anything like that. No charges on that.
You also don't know if this guy had a weapon, if he was close to other people who had a weapon. I mean, the RMP in a situation like that is kind of used for safety and precautionary reasons as much as anything else. So if he got into the car as a first resort, that leads me to believe that there was a dangerous threat in the situation.
I think it's reckless at the best is reckless, but not, and I'm telling you, I see the chicken one keeps mentioning it's like the Pagan case. I mean, Rob Lukesh says not uncommon to overcharge police officers looks politically correct. That is exactly what this is what I'm trying to avoid is, are you making this a political case? It's because that's what you start to do when you want to go after someone, you make an example of a cop. Oh, the cops are the problem in Baltimore. Baltimore's got a lot of problems. The cops are not one.
Yeah.
You got a lot of problems in Baltimore, And Joel Ramirez, when people get shot in the city, they don't even get charged with attempted murder. That's a fair assessment because it's true. In fact, they don't even register that they have somebody shooting unless that bullet hits a human being. It could hit glass. It could hit a car. It's not a shooting. Shootings are down. Crime's down. What are you talking about? That's how they act in New York City. So I wonder what they do in Baltimore, which is a failed city.
It's every urban city. It's Baltimore. It's New York City. It's Miami. I mean, look at what just happened with Antonio Brown. He tried to shoot someone, and he got extradited back to New Jersey from Dubai. Had to fly back to Miami, and now he's out on bail. So, I mean, listen, this is kind of an arbitrary process, unfortunately. And if you happen to have money or you're rich, you're able to kind of skirt and slide around some of the rules that the poor people are going to have to submit to. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough process here, but I would like to see more communication, not just from the police department, but from the people as well, because all we're getting is this cop is the person who's trying to violently attack this person, and the perpetrator is the victim. Like, there's been kind of a stunning role reversal on all of these videos, and it kind of traces back to what took place back in 2020 in Minneapolis with Derek Chauvin and George Floyd as well. It's easy for people to come to conclusions based on the societal frustration that's taking place. They need to come to conclusions based on what rationally took place in a set of circumstances instead.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the incident in Minneapolis affected multiple police departments, multiple cities. It's like an incident that happens in one city, somehow every other city wants to get involved in it.
It's applicable, and it's because there's too much personal emotions involved. I think Marlon brings up a great point here. Don't assume because you have preconceived ideas about cops. That's a dilemma that liberals all across the country, and even conservatives to probably a lesser degree, are dealing with right now. Oh, I had a bad experience with the cop 10 years ago when I got pulled over for speeding. They pulled me out of the car. I felt threatened. I was in danger. And now I'm going to hate police officers for the rest of my life. That thought process is very dangerous in of itself because it threatens and undermines public safety. What if the police officer that you saw in that video had saved 5 people's lives that day before the incident transpired? Now you're going to hang him by his head because he did something that you didn't like at face value? That doesn't seem very fair. And I'm hoping that everyone that Zohran Mamdani appoints to his administration who's going to be dealing with police officers is able to put their personal and preconceived beliefs to the side as well, because this is going to be a very important issue. And there's going to be some people in these positions with very left-leaning ideological stances. And that could end up being very harmful to the general public in the end.
Also here, HFL says, any conclusions derived from the Ashley Babbitt incident? Yeah, I wonder. Nobody making any assumptions there? It's that I'm just saying, like this, and this could be important because remember, if this incident happened, let's say in New York, how would Zohran Mamdani's PR team, will say, react to that?
Their heads going to be put to the fire the first time anything big happens, because then it's going to be a litmus test. How are you going to be able to deal with the police officers and the relationship between them and the community when you have very violent people, repeat offenders who have been walking around? I think Mamdani is going to bend the knee and change his stance a whole lot when it comes to those sorts of things. He does talk about allowing police officers to do their jobs. That's a step in the right direction based on the previous hateful comments he made years ago that were a little bit off color, but he still made them. But at the end of the day, the bottom line has to be keeping people safe. And if you want to bring social workers to diffuse situations, that's fine, but it needs to be a police officer-led operation. The social workers can work to diffuse tension, calm people down. They cannot work in terms of apprehending individuals with weapons, trying to keep people safe when their safety is in danger. Those you have to draw very strict lines in the sand for all of these.
You mean a homeless outreach? That was what they used to do. But let's not bring them back, because his mentor De Blasio took them out. That was part of $1 billion cut, was homeless outreach. Chicken wing. This is it only takes one incident to invalidate an entire career, sometimes an entire life. You're looking at somebody that right now is going through that because of something that never happened and never occurred, but because you're pushed to being associated with someone that certain people that were in power and still in power today don't like, they ruin you. And they continue to ruin you, even though that was wrong. It's legally wrong. They don't care. And that's exactly the point. That is true. It takes one moment to invalidate someone's career or their life. And that's it. And here we are making value judgments,
Yeah, and I think in some cases, that's when we need to try and give police officers the benefit of the doubt. Cases where there might be a termination, maybe we should think about a suspension, remedial training, things of that nature. We can't just look to cut the noose off of police officers who may commit one bad infraction over the course of what was otherwise a very successful year. It's wholly unfair, and most people don't look at it from the other angle, especially from the civilian realm.
I know. His chicken wing says it says you never had an incident. Sal got fired over a tweet photo. But that's sad, because see, you're right. I didn't have a shooting. I didn't beat up someone. They're saying I don't like the guy you hang around. I didn't like that you were in Washington, D.C. Not that you did anything wrong and you were nowhere near anything and you have no ties to anything, but I don't like that. So it's opinion based. There were never any facts to why they did this. You didn't like, okay, you violate. Here you are. We caught you. You took $100 out of the perp's pocket and you took it home and you never vouched it. No, that was never the case. It's all something that has nothing to do with anything. And in the end, they said you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't violate any laws. You didn't use the computer to do anything. Even though we violated laws, we illegally got your records. We violated court orders going into people's personal records. We did all these things. You didn't do anything wrong, Sal. You didn't commit any crimes, but we got to fire you because your friend. We don't like him. We don't like you. And then the same administration turns around and buddies up to my friend and his friend. That's the best part of the story.
The point where the chief of department and the deputy mayor for public safety went golfing with the CEO of the organization that you were apparently affiliating with. And then they're trying to spin the narrative that they didn't actually go golfing with him and that they were trying to protect him and they just got out and took a photo. And we don't know what obviously took place because we don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
It's crazy how they just like move the goalposts. It's like if a field goal kicker is practicing field goals. Oh, you're going to kick a 20-yard field goal. You're going to kick a 50-yard field goal, and everyone's just going to live with the outcome. That should not be the way that policing works. But anyway, at the top of the broadcast, I heard you guys talking about the 50-year mortgage plan. And here's a graph which shows what the 50-year mortgage plan like. On the left, you have the average income for individuals during a certain time period. And then on the right, the dark blue graph is the cost of a house, the average cost. The baby boomers representation is from 1983, and then the millennials representation is from today. And as you guys will notice, it used to cost $83,000 to buy a house in 1983, which in today's day and age, or 1985 rather, that's when that time period is. In today's day and age, that's $251,000, which is about half the value of what a house costs nowadays. So, I mean, inflation has totally screwed up the idea of this 50-year mortgage. And over the course of the mortgage, we're going to be paying a value that doubles, triples, or in some special cases, quadruples the value of our original mortgage. And we're going to own nothing either, because a lot of us are going to die before the mortgage is over. That's the caveat that they're not telling you. If you take out a 50-year mortgage when you're 30 or 35 years old, you might die before you're done paying it off. And it's like you're going to go to the grave not owning a house that you had been paying off for 50 years, which makes absolutely no sense. And President Trump wants to say, oh, you just spend a little bit more time paying something off and you get lower payments. Yeah, but you still don't own the house. Like, it gets to a point, too, with President Trump. We're not able to own properties. We live in an era where there's inflation. The job market is terrible, and you want to bring people from out of the country to take a lot of the good jobs, which makes things a lot more competitive. Like, are you America first, or are you Americans last and oligarchs first? Because right now, I really can't tell.
I'm with you. I don't know what the hell happened to this guy. I get questioned all the time. And no, I'm not a MAGA guy per se. Owen Schroyer, we were launched out of the Garden of Eden a long time ago. And it's not that what you think, it's that the God, the person that runs the Garden of Eden, doesn't embrace you. Okay, he embraces other people. He likes to embrace people that were there trying to burn down the garden. Now he wants them as his best friend. His I don't know how to say it. His judgment of character stinks. The people he has around him, look at what he does. Look at who he has around him all the time. And you would notice that people make, my friend Roger and stuff. Roger's not working with him. He's not next to him. In fact, he barely ever mentions the guy's name, right? He knows him. He owes a lot to him, but who does he have working around him? This guy talks to Steve Bannon, who called him like all kinds of names, Trump, and yet he always embraces this guy again. You're like, if this was WWE, this is like the heel turn on the heel turn on the heel turn constantly. And then everybody gets back together like a week later. And I've seen that too. The swerve, that's what it is. And remember, he comes from that world. He hosted WrestleMania 4 and 5. And there's a little bit I like that it's fun, the wrestling aspect and all that. But now it's you're in like the third or fourth quarter here. You gotta you better get serious here. But I don't think I don't know what goes through this guy's head.
And to Frankie Palaguachi's point, it's like we're supposed to lower our lifestyle standards now because of your administration. Rent a one-bedroom apartment the rest of your life, or buy a house where you're going to be paying a 50-year mortgage. Can't get a better job either, where you're going to be making a lot more money either.
There's someone MDR and Samurai said this. That's not Trump's fault. It's the Senate and House. They make the laws. They're the ones in bed with BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. But so is the president. He talks to the same people. And here's the thing: when you get elected, he's done a lot of things also by executive order, which means you can't pass legislation when you have the majority. That's telling me, and should tell all of you, that this system in America has many checks and balances, even amongst people that you're in the same party with, because you need all of these people to support whatever it is you're trying to pass. But some of those people think exactly like us and saying, what the hell are you doing as a president? Or what the hell are you doing as a governor? So when you have the Senate and Congress, and there's people that are not in agreement with you, but maybe they do it publicly, the only way they could stop you is legislatively in the background. So that's what you're seeing now. He's not going to get all these things passed, and time's running out because next November, that they're going to get trounced for not passing anything. So Some things they should have passed, they didn't. Other things that should be brought forward aren't being brought forward. It's a real mess. Nobody likes each other. And it's what do you do? But you guys elect these people. So in the end, whose fault is it?
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the theory blame the Senate and the House, because Trump is the one publicly trying to rationalize all of these things to the American people, even going on Fox News with Laura Ingraham and saying that we should just suck it up and be happy. So no, I do blame President Trump, and he's the one who got all of these donations from the real estate bigwigs and is making backroom deals with his buddies, and eventually is going to meet with Zohran Mamdani, whose family owns multiple properties in New York City, including a $1.1 million apartment in Chelsea, where he might have been staying to party on the weekends while he was at his Astoria apartment during the week. Unconfirmed, but the point is, all of these guys are friends with one another, and they're sitting at this big dinner table eating a 5-course meal, feasting, and then they have like a little cup of noodles warmed up and put it on a small little kids table and say, here you go, everyone share this meal and just be happy with it, because we're giving you something. You're not going hungry tonight. You'll maybe have 3 noodles on your fork, but at least you're going to eat. Like, it doesn't matter. We're over here stuffing our faces with expensive turkey and prosciutto and all these nice desserts and stuff, getting fat. Like, you just better be happy, because we're giving you a 99-cent cup of noodles, right? Like, that's not going to work. At some point, the American people are going to start to question his agenda. And so far, Trump has not made good on any of the promises that he made, that he put forth a year ago. Said that he was going to lower the cost of living. Hasn't done that. Was going to control inflation. Hasn't done that. Was going to release the Epstein files. He pump faked, didn't do it. And now he's trying to block the House from trying to get them released again. So, I mean, it's been an absolute disaster from a publicity perspective. Oh, and by the way, I heard the prices at Mar-a-Lago are starting to go up as well. Instead of $300 for a ticket to an event, now it's $350, because the Trump family has to make money. It doesn't matter that we need to buy houses and do things that everyday people should expect to be doing, because he has to live in his mansion and he has to make a profit for his family. That's going to take priority over everything else.
I'm telling you, and Lone Silence has said here, Trump screwed this term up, as the main thing he should have fixed was voting integrity, and yet nothing has been done. So they will get cheating during their midterms, crying about it as a lame duck. He did not. That is something, and apparently it occurred in New Jersey. And again, you know what? I thought you were going in there, and this is some of the things you said, and then nothing's happened. So you're getting a lot about what happened in the first term. He storms in the office, has the majority, but everybody's blaming each other, and meanwhile, nothing gets done.
And they're just sitting there throwing rocks at each other,
yeah,
recklessly too. The Democrats are blaming the Republicans for the shutdown. The Republicans are blaming the Democrats. The Republicans are saying that the Democrats are the ones leaking the Epstein files because they're upset with what's transpiring and they want Trump out, and it's a targeted attack. And the Republicans are saying the Democrats could have released the Epstein files. In reality, someone has the Epstein files somewhere, and if everyone wanted us to see them, we'd already see them. That's just the bottom line. Whether it be 4 years ago, 12 months ago, 6 months ago, it really doesn't matter. I'm not interested in the time frame at this point in time, because they do exist, and if they're being leaked, someone somewhere has access to them.
Here's another one right here. I see Michael Fried put 2 things up. Las Vegas Metro Police are investigating a suspicious item that was reported near the Las Vegas Convention Center. According to police, detectives report that a small explosion happened at a business near the Convention Center Drive. Officials say no injuries have been reported at this time. You know, Vegas is I love that town. But I remember when that infamous, what was it, October 1st, a few years ago, some guy just randomly started shooting people outside a window, and that was all a hush-hush thing too. Like, it's one person.
I believe that was 2017 now.
2017, yeah. It was years ago. And everybody, I remember this is where Laura Loomer started becoming, I'm an investigative journalist. I'm in Las Vegas. I remember that. Like, you never investigated a case, really. That nobody could ever definitively tell you what happened. And Joe Lombardo, who was the chief of the police at that time, now he's the governor. So forever and a day, a lot of these things that you should know about, it's never going to come out. So this is more here. It says on this. Sources tell Fox 5 it appears to be a gasoline-filled object thrown at the porch of a business.
Yeah,
You got vigilantes running around out there. I mean, really, this is what a man. I love Vegas. You know, I would love to because soon they're gonna have the Oakland or now the Las Vegas Athletics in a couple of years. They got the Raiders. They're trying to make Vegas, even though it's a betting town, everything, a fun place for everybody to go. So I would hope that they don't have incidents like this. Although it's run down on the streets, you go off the side streets, it's run down. Like Vegas Metro PD worries about the strip. They tell them to, but they don't do anything about those side streets. There's a lot going on there, and it means you're going to have to get a little heavy-handed in certain areas, and I guess they don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's like a poor man's Miami in a lot of different ways, or a rich man's
more.
Yeah, I guess depending on how you look at it. But anyway, speaking of big emphatic wins that took place in Florida, the Rangers had a huge victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning, 7-3 last night at Amalie Arena. Chief Rob Lukács, co-host of the Executive Perspective, was at the game. He was cheering. And man, that was a fantastic one. Will Cully and Vincent Trocheck both with 2 goals apiece. How about that assist, that little backdoor pass from Artemi Panarin on the final one to Trocheck? Igor Shesterkin outdueled Andrei Vasilevsky with 33 saves on 36 attempts. Defense for the Rangers was terrible last night. But listen, a win is a win. The Lightning had won 6 of their last 7 games coming into last night's contest. We'll take it. We're happy with it, and I have high hopes for the Rangers because football season is apparently over for the New York City teams. I say the Jets get trounced by the Patriots again tonight on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, tonight will be a good one. But the Rangers played very well. I watched that game. The best part was Rob Lukács was there. Apparently, he that's why he wasn't on the show yesterday, folks. He was at the game. So Rob was there. It was great to see. And my friends are huge Ranger fans too down here. And even though we know the Florida Panthers, I believe the owner and his son, like, you know, we all know, like, we know who they are, but they're Ranger fans too. That's the best part. They all from New York. So the Rangers played great last night. They gave up a shorthanded goal. That was brutal, the goalie. But they came back. They scored. So the Rangers show a little grit. They're the best road team in the league. They just got to get their act together. I told people Sullivan, the coach, he came from the Penguins, he won a couple of cups with him. He's implementing his system, and slowly you're seeing now the Rangers are adapting to it. They're probably still 1 or 2 pieces away from really being like a mega contender, but they're right there. They're only 4 points from first place. So all these losses, it doesn't mean anything in hockey, by the way. You could be the 8th seed and win the Stanley Cup. But the Rangers, the way they play, they could be a dangerous team because they could put up goals. Like they only scored, I believe they said the Rangers have won every game they've scored over 1 goal. If they only score 1 goal, they lose. If they score more than 1 goal, they win. So that's on. The Rangers played good last night. It was because he played in Tampa too, and Tampa, I think McDonough wasn't playing. Former Ranger, by the way. But that was great. Shout out to Rob Lukács, who's in the chat today. He was there, a big Ranger fan. And you're right. That's all we have to look forward to. There's highlight. I'll give you an update on Tuesday what's going on with that because there's standings and who's playing what. But that was a great game last night. So that's all we got to look forward to because football tonight, the Jets will probably get crushed. And, you know.
Yeah, Gillette Stadium, where Drake May is kind of like a sneaky MVP candidate, the quarterback of the Patriots that no one's talking about. But with the Rangers, you just hope that the consistency at the top of the food chain at the head coach position really helps them this time around because they obviously replaced Gerard Gallant with Peter Laviolette. That didn't work out. They missed the postseason last year. He was subsequently fired. So, you know, coaching has been an issue for this team, and you've seen them have fundamental issues in the postseason over the past couple of years. They probably should have won a Stanley Cup 2 seasons ago, underachieved, missed a good opportunity to do so. Listen, that's Rangers hockey. They usually peak out and break our heart in April or May. That's just the way it goes. But this year, I'm cautiously optimistic that with a retooled squad, with the core guys still in place, they can make a little bit of a run.
And it's better sometimes that they started slow because then hopefully they end strong, which is what you really want to be. It's hard to do it end to end. I mean, even when they won in 1994, that was not – they were number one, but they were fading at the end. They faded the Devil series. It was, and then they traded away Mike Gartner. They traded away Tony Amante. Yeah, you got Stephon Matteau. You got Glenn Anderson. These guys were 80 years old already. They played with the Oilers in the 79 season. I mean, you brought in all these old timers, and yeah, you won that cup, but it cost the Rangers about 10 to 12 years worth of hockey because they were never a real contender after 94 or 95. Like that was it. You can't bring in all these old players and trade away your whole future and think you're going to keep winning Stanley Cups. They could have won with Mike Gardner. They chose to get Glenn Anderson, who was terrible. All right, the guy's beyond. His career was over already, but that's the Rangers for you. So you live and you die with them. 3 Stanley Cups with the original 6 and only 1 since the league expanded. That's the New York Rangers.
Yeah, and I was a little bit disappointed that Chris Kreider departed as well. I thought he was kind of the glue holding this current group together, but they've ironed out some of the kinks that they had in their game early on here, and they've been a little bit more aggressive on the offensive end of the ice, something that's translated in the goal total. We saw it last night. They scored 7 times. They're going to get in a lot of these shootout type games with some of the high-powered teams in the league, 5-4, 6-5, 5-3. And it's gonna come down to stamina and playing good defense because Shesterkin was fantastic last night in goal, but he needs a little bit more help. He can't be
no defense.
He has no defense. He can't be trying to save 36 shots on goal. That's just not fair to him. So if he's saving, 30 shots on goal, maybe only 2 of them are going in.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The Rangers, hopefully, this start, they won 2 games in a row for like their first time all year. So that's a shout out to the Rangers. Thanks for that, Jack. Guys, tomorrow, 8:05 in the morning, Finest Unfiltered. You're going to have John, Eric, and Marlon. They're going to give you a recap over anything that's happened, transpired over the whole week. Plus, you're right here. Lone Silencer says Rangers should have won a second cup against the Kings. The defenseman blew the series. They were the better team in the series and blew a lead in 3 of the 4 games they lost in that series. I know. Very sad, very sad. Plus, they got blown out by the Islanders the other night. And I'm like, what happened there? But, yeah, so check out Finest Unfiltered in the morning. Also, if you can, yesterday, Executive Perspective, Ron Layson did the show on his own. Rob was, of course, at the Tampa game with the Rangers. So we had Lieutenant Stephen Weiss on. If you love the NYPD and you're big with when they basically recap someone's career and also the things that they're doing, you might want to check that out. Lieutenant Stephen Weiss was on. I work for him. He's a great boss, just to let you know. He was a very good boss on the job. Although I heard him mention a certain disgraced chief of department's name. But I'll tell you this. You can't compare those 2 guys because Lieutenant Weiss was a real cop where he, if you worked underneath him, he had your back the whole way. The guy he mentioned, the only back he ever had was his own, and he tried to save it numerous times. So I don't know if it was a fair assessment to try to compare those 2 people, but yeah. But check that one out. That was very good. Interview with Lieutenant Stephen Weiss and Ron Layson. Also, 10-4 Tavern, which is on Tuesdays, 7:05 or 19:05 at night. Check them out. We'll see what they're going to have on. I think you could check out the flyer for that. I don't have it in here because I don't know what they're going to have on yet, but we'll know by Tuesday. Every Tuesday they're on. Executive Perspective on Wednesdays, 5:05 or 17:05 on every Wednesday. And, of course, Finest Unfiltered Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 8:05 in the morning. Tomorrow they'll be on. You get tuned back into the Sal Greco Show coming on Tuesday. I'll be back. We'll see what I'll have on if I have anyone on at all. But I'd like to thank everyone that has stayed with me here. Also, Tuesday was a great audience. And I spent the whole week really emphasizing the police department, their shortcomings, what they can do, what could happen in the future. We look out for the rank and file. That's bottom line. The executives, it depends who you are, because some of these upper echelon people, especially in the last 4 years, are completely clueless and don't care about anything but themselves and partying or whatever else. So we're looking to change that culture, also change the disciplinary system and everything that comes with it. So thank you. Thank you to everyone once again. I will see you on Tuesday. Have everybody, I hope, has a great weekend. It's a little chilly out there, even in South Florida. But again, it's that time of year. Thanksgiving's coming, Christmas is coming. I hope everybody has a great time. Like I said, check out Free Spoke. Also, check out my Freedom Cart /Sal Greco Show. You should be shopping with patriotic companies that support the blue. I say back to blue, meaning I'm back in the rank and file. I don't know about the upper echelon guys. Those guys, you need to one by one check out who they are. But those guys that are on a street corner or in a car, you should go over there and hug them and say, thanks for being here, because that's what's, those people care about your neighborhood. That's the best way to describe it. The people who care is what matters. So I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Check out Finance Unfiltered in the morning, and I'll be back. And as I sign off from a chilly South Florida, where it is a sunny place for shady people. Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking or your data being taken from you. Porn free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. Free Spoke.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall to be put in that book. And it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.